and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2026 Mastermax FAB-Racing British Minibike Championship. You join us down in Dorset for round 2 of our campaign. Well, we're here at a very sunny Clay Pigeon Saturday. Myself, Zach Sweeney, Ryan Davis alongside me in the commentary box to bring you all of the racing action over the course of this afternoon. And Riley, well, the sun's come out to play.
Yeah, 23 degrees and perfectly sunny. Maybe a few clouds here and there, but that's not going to be much difference. It's perfect way racing when it's full today. We'll see about Sunday, but for now, at least you know the riders involved.
On the back of Lynn as well, our first round for the 2026 season. Your first, of course, with us at FAB-Racing. Pleasantly surprised, I think, in terms of the quality of racing that we've got. Of course, the stars of the future on the grids of today, and well, some exciting racing action that we're looking to continue into probably one of the highest average speed circuits of the calendar.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that, in fact. Lid was incredible, and if that's anything to go by, then the Clay Pigeon is going to be fantastic this weekend. This circuit is way wider than Lid, and that's going to allow for a lot more dive bombs. While that can interrupt you keeping with the pack battle, we can see some really incredible moves here on the last lap because people will get desperate in the group.
Yeah, absolutely. I think consistency is going to be the name of the game. We often, I guess, compare Clay Pigeon to a Thruxton or a Castle Combe-esque circuit in that vein. Only a couple of overtaking opportunities. We can see one of them right here, that sort of horseshoe at the back of the circuit. But in order to get the move done into here, you do need that good run through the chicane just before, which is quite tight and technical.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks that starts off technical. Like you said, Thruxton, it has the chicane at the start, and then it goes into this wide, fast, flowing section where if one mistake happens, a rider can drop from 1st to 5th, whereas Lid, being a bit more tighter, we saw the top guys who are at the top in qualifying stay out ahead a bit easier.
Yeah, track position was very important, of course, at Lid, and yeah, when it comes to Clay Pigeon, quite the opposite in terms of overtaking. Definitely is possible. The slipstream, of course, definitely is possible. It's happening quite early in the round. A couple of our champions, Wilson Dilks being one of them, sort of etching his name into the very illustrious Hall of Fame in terms of the Metrocrit Mini GP 70 class and the Extreme 200s when he done that there. Fun fact, when he crossed the line, crowned as champion, he fell off the bike at T1. So suboptimal. Hopefully no one's going to be doing that today. Hopefully they can all keep it nice and clean to sort of, I guess, emulate the weather. But I hope everyone, of course, joining us this afternoon is having a pleasant day and a pleasant weekend. We're definitely loving life down here, down south, with some very nice weather. Hopefully, like we were saying, that continues going into tomorrow as well. Next out on circuit, we'll have qualifying for the PB140s. You could probably get a glimpse of their engines revving up as they're eagerly anticipating themselves getting back out onto circuit. And the pit bikes, back at Lid, probably one of our most full grids in terms of numbers. I think that is going to be replicated as we get here to Clay Pigeon. And well, Chris Wells off the back of a second and 2 victories back at Lid. He'll be, I guess, looking to continue that form today.
Yeah, Pit Bike 140s is probably the biggest class in the whole of FAB Racing, and it really made a bit of an issue at Lid with lapped riders. They were kind of getting in the way of that first lap battle, and also jump starts as well. That was huge. So many riders got penalties in that one, Jamie King being one of them, and I think we might actually see that being another situation here.
Yeah, it's a difficult sort of opening lap as well, right? So, we talk about Clay Pigeon, and the race starts a part of that. It's a short run to turn number 1, and as you get into it, you're almost immediately then into a sort of not very tight. It opens up on the exit, but the initial entry into turn number 2, a great overtaking opportunity. But when you've got a very numerous field like the pit bikes, having that dense of a field heading into quite a big pinch point at the apex of turn 2 and the sweeper of turn number 1 could be quite problematic.
I did say earlier that it would be a bit easier to overtake here than Lid, but it might be a bit of a different story for the pit bikes. The lines are very different to those little mini motos that you'll see in the AC40 classes. They are going to make a really good race because so many different lines are available at this circuit, especially in those last 2 sectors. So we're going to see some amazing racing there, but Pit Bike 140 will still be fantastic. As I said before, lap riders can really make a difference in this race.
Yeah, and again, because it is quite a quick circuit as well, if there's any sort of speed differential or speed delta between a fast rider like Chris Wells and maybe a backmarker like Jamie King, then something gets a little bit problematic. There we can see some of the guys joining us here at Clay Pigeon, and I hope everyone is enjoying the weekend. Like I say, the weather is good. Can see a lot of people walking around, suns out, guns out, that sort of ideology, and some of the riders, again, the PB140s, eagerly anticipating getting themselves out on circuit. And just a quick little pre-session debrief there.
Yeah, and just a quick advertisement almost for the guys, anyone who wants to come along to FAB Racing, you can watch if you want. You can come along and watch, or you can get on circuit regardless of your age. There's a class for you. and we're looking at probably one of the older sections of classes with Pit Bike 140 at the moment. Someone who I want to keep an eye on this weekend is Harrison Quincy, because he was on pole position at Lid, and by a good chunk as well, and he was really disturbed by those lap riders, by penalties and all sorts of different things. He was getting pushed wide a few times, and we heard before, I think you mentioned, that it was his favourite track on the calendar. So he's really going to be looking for some revenge in this one, and he'll be guns out swinging all the punches he can to get back into the lead of the championship, because he's currently third. He got 2 podiums at Lid, which you'd have to admit for Harrison he'd be really disappointed with, considering he started on pole.
Which is, a good problem to have, being disappointed with the podium. It's sort of a bittersweet moment. You're happy you got the podium, but I guess almost disappointed that you were potentially able to get just that little bit more. And I guess, like I said, that's a good problem to have, being disappointed with not winning. The pit bikes will make their way out onto circuit for their qualifying session. Now, this is a very important session because, well, it basically dictates, it's a turning point for your weekend, right? No matter how fast you are, if you mess up qualifying, you're starting at the back for all 3 races this weekend.
You may have heard in Moto3 people say qualifying isn't as important because there's such big pack battles and they're on huge wide tracks like Mugello that they're at this weekend. But here, in any on the calendar, any circuit, including this one, it is going to be very hard to climb through the field, and we saw that when there was penalties being taken. Jump starts, of course, jump starts don't always mean you gain the advantage, because you're like, oh, whoops, I've jump started, and you try and recover a little bit of
almost try and self-serve yourself as well. You slow down a little bit off the jump start, and then you realise you get going, but ultimately, if you slow down a little bit, the stewards don't care. They see you jump start and give you a penalty anyway. So it is going to be quite tricky. Also, as well, I think he's 4-time champion now, Jamie King, in the Pit Bike 140s, off the back of a very successful last couple of years in FAB-Racing, and of course, other exploits now racing on bigger bikes as well as is Jamie. Not feeling too great. He come and spoke to us a bit earlier on. I don't know how much of that was, old man excuses, or how much of it was legitimately him feeling ill. But especially on a hot weekend like this and a fairly physical circuit like Thruxton, like the Thruxton equivalent that we've got in the form of Clay Pigeon, coming into this under the weather is not ideal in the slightest.
Well, here's my theory. I think he's wanting to be the underdog on the TV, and he's going to go and try and smash in all 3 races this weekend. But going off last year's results, I don't know if that's going to be possible, Jamie, because Harrison was very impressive last year. And as I said before, he's looking for revenge. And it looks like a good place to come to, because he was the top man last year in point scoring, winning 1 race and then 2 second places.
Yeah, not bad in the slightest. Quick rundown, by the way, of the provisional championship as things stand. I know we're only 1 round into the season, but Chris Wells, after a very successful campaign back at Lid, a victory, 2 victories and a second place, sees him on top, 14 points clear of Jamie King, who sits on 56 championship points. Harrison Quincy from Ben Simpson and Bailey Lawrence, the top 5. Very consistent through the weekend was the number 9, a 6th, a 5th and a 6th. And again, she's very consistent, is Bailey Lawrence. Been with us for a couple of years at FAB-Racing, but again, coming into Clay Pigeon, you're happy that you're in the mix, sort of 6th or 5th, but there's always that little bit more that you want to go and get. Around a circuit like Clay Pigeon, what is the difference maker?
The difference maker is corner speed and making sure that you make no mistakes. And if you want to make a mistake, which of course you don't, it would have to be in those first 2 sectors, because you can easily get a better drive out of one of those hairpins or chicanes. Whereas if you have one of them in the final 2 sectors, you're ruining your run for the rest of the sector. And that's what we hear so many times about different flowy circuits, where it can completely destroy your entire lap if you run wide, because you can have 4 riders go up the inside and you'll be done for that race, especially on a pit bike. But yeah, Bailey Lawrence, she was really impressive actually at Lid. I just want to make a little bit of a shout out for her. She was making some really impressive moves. She was getting in the podium fight. She didn't quite climb onto the podium, but she was there fighting for that top 5, and that's really positive to see. And she'll be a little bit more motivated to get out there and do well now, because her brother Taylor's out there in that bright green suit. Bit of a veteran coming back to this class, and he's going to make some interesting scenes for us.
Yes, both on track and off of it with Taylor Lawrence. He's a good lad. Always joins us down at Clay Pigeon, and definitely gave Jamie King a run for his money back in 2024. Again, both on and off of the circuit. We'll give you a rundown of times and things as soon as we can. But again, the pit bike's a fantastic class. You can join them, I believe, from upwards of 15. So definitely get yourself involved. I would probably argue one of the most competitive classes that we've got here at FAB, which is a pretty high standard in all honesty. Looking forward, of course, to the rest of 2026. So, of course, we had Lid about a month ago. We're here today at Clay Pigeon. In a few weeks' time, on the 26th of June, we'll be heading up north to Houghton Park, back down south for Jamie King's home circuit at Ella Park, before we then take to the final 3 rounds of the season. Rowra, Three Sisters and Clandau on the 9th of October. A very long season this year, but some good circuits that we take to. And like we say, Clay Pigeon probably the fastest average speed of them all.
Well, yeah, in the main season, but I think from what I've seen, of course, if you haven't heard already, the Junior British Grand Prix coming your way at Silverstone in the middle of the year. That's August, the weekend of the MotoGP British Grand Prix. A huge event for mini bike racing, probably the biggest event in Britain for mini bike racing, and it's great to see all these kids getting their chance to show their talent on a world level. As incredible of a level is FAB-Racing, being at Silverstone during a Grand Prix weekend is incredible, and that new track, from the onboard footage I've seen, despite it only being on karts so far, looks absolutely incredible. It looks so fast, and if you can master here, then you'll be good at Silverstone, and everyone wants to win the Junior British Grand Prix.
And when it comes as well to pressure and that psychological aspect, right? FAB-Racing is a stepping stone, right, on that road up towards Grand Prix racing. There is an element of pressure here at FAB-Racing, but the paddock, it's friendly. Everyone's welcoming. There are rivalries, of course there are going to be, but at the end of the day, a lot of them are mates, in terms of the grown-ups. A lot of the kids, again, they've got their rivalries, but ultimately they'll go and have a kickabout in the afternoon. I'm sure that is still going to be the case at Silverstone, but when you're in that sort of MotoGP atmosphere, right, they're surrounded by their idols. Potentially their idols are watching. That level of pressure gets elevated to an extra level, and it really, I guess, forces effectively the kids to deliver on the day, to show what they're worth, because you never know who's going to be watching. Yeah,
it's a true diamond maker, really, this round that we've got coming up, because it's a track that none of these guys would have ridden at yet. If I'm correct, there's been no bikes at all yet on that new kart track in Silverstone, so this will be the first ever time Two Wheels touches that fantastic new kart circuit, so there'll be no one with the experience at the track yet, and it will be everyone absolutely going for it. Experience will matter less or could matter more depending on the circuit. It would be the young guys absolutely going for it. It's everyone learning the track at the same time. We're going to see a bit of a leveler, and with that fast track, it is going to be such good racing. So make sure you do not miss it, even if it's at the same time as something on the main track. I think we'll probably have better racing here at Fab, to be honest.
I'd hedge our bets. I'd back us. We're not biased, of course, in the slightest in the commentary box. But yeah, I hope everyone can join us at Silverstone. If you're there for the GP anyway, we'll be there for, I think, Thursday through Saturday. And what better thing to be doing than joining us at Silverstone, again, watching the stars of the future on the grids of today. Currently following the Pit Bike 140 class in their qualifying session for the weekend, again, to set the grids for all 3 of their races, one of which will be taking place this afternoon. We'll be doing a run-through of each of our classes' first race, and then they'll get race 2 and 3 tomorrow, with the exception, of course, of Motor Team, which is slightly different for this year. They get 4 races, and with that, the grid changes for each of the races as well. So quite a bit of excitement in the former Motor Team.
Yeah, Moto Team is actually my favourite class at the moment, just based off round 1. We saw some amazing racing at Lid, as we see Taylor Lawrence there getting a bit aggressive on the inside. A nice little welcome back to action for the man in the bright green RST suit. You can't miss him. But anyway, what I was talking about before, we're going to see some fantastic racing. And Moto Team was so good at Lid, incredible. Acme Racing, Ian Jackson and SFC putting on an absolute show. Race 2, it was really dodgy conditions, drama filled. Ian Jackson went down early on. I know that was race 3, but it's sort of all blurring together because there were so many incredible races in that series. And it went to the line at least 2 times. We saw the closest finish of the weekend, and at Clay Pigeon, where battles are free compared to Lid, we're going to see even more action, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, we speak about the speed, and we're probably going to be continuing to speak about the speed for quite some time. But, talking about a slipstream, bikes naturally have quite a narrow aerodynamic profile. But I think that slipstream is definitely going to play a factor. Having the toe, especially going, down this long, it's not so straight, but that run through the second horseshoe, through that long right-hander that leads you back onto the straight, into the sweeping left of T1, into the heavy braking zone at T2. Having the slipstream is going to be vital. So, if you manage to get it on pole, you manage to get a good launch. If you're able to break free of the toe of those in second and third, it makes your life a little bit easier.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing about that first corner. That tight right-hander, if you call that the first corner, compared to the straight, which is essentially a corner. On the bigger bikes, you really have to be careful because you can get a fantastic run, a brilliant exit out the last corner, and round across the straight. It's really, really sketchy into that first turn if you send it. You've got to make sure you get it stopped. Most people, I don't think, despite it being an overtaking hotspot for the bigger bikes, the Pit Bike 140s and Moto team, and maybe GP70s, we're not actually going to see a lot of moves there because that can go extremely wrong and it's not worth it. It's the start of the lap. Even on the last lap, you've got plenty of time to overtake somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly that. And as well, it's sort of that combined entry through T1 and T2, isn't it? You're leaning the bike in, then almost as soon as you sit it up again, that's when you need to get back on the brake. So very easy to get wrong, but if you are able to just carry a bit more speed through turn 1, not necessarily focus as much of bringing the bike back over to the left to open up the hairpin of T2, more so just keep it to the right. You can almost keep the throttle pinned and force a dive bomb down to the inside of T2, which, you know, can make you look like a hero, very quickly can make you look like a zero as well.
Yeah, we've seen so many crashes there over the years.
Too much clear air over the course of this qualifying session, and again, he's going to want to get a good lap in qualifying just to make his life easier. I'm sure wherever he qualifies, he's able to come back through and fight towards the sharp end of the field, but I'm sure he'd love to make his life just that little bit easier.
Looks like he's got a little bit of clear space here, but I'm sure he'll catch up to those riders in front of him in maybe half a lap's time. But that is the end of the session. I think he just caught the flag there. I'm not too sure, but we don't see the times anyway, so we're just looking at the action on track, which Taylor is giving us plenty of as they now finish the session. That is about it. The Pit Bike 140's just got a few more qualifying sessions left to go before we get racing for race 1 of 4 for Moto Team. As we were saying earlier about Moto Team being a bit greedy and having those 4 races, but that's a treat for you, the viewers. You can come and join in Moto Team with your own bike. It's 125s. I'm not overly sure about the regulations, but that's the one thing I'm sure of. There's 2 classes, there's standard and open, and you can get in there yourself.
Well, Pit Bike 140s getting itself back into the pit lane as they conclude their qualifying session of the weekend. Next out on circuit will be the Metrokit Mini GP 50s for, again, their qualifying session of the weekend. Brought to you, of course, by Nova Racing. Big shout out to them for their support of FAB-Racing in 2026. Again, supporting the riders of the future, representing the UK on the world stage eventually in a few years' time. Who knows? Well, definitely in this year at the very least when we head to Silverstone. Mini GP 50, last time out at Lid. Emilio Pereira's, well, his show really, wasn't it? I mean, he was just dominant up in front. 3 races, 3 victories.
You probably got tired of hearing us talk so much about how dominant he was and how incredible and impressive it was for someone of his age to have a mentality so confident that he can put in performances like that. Absolutely incredible, perfect consistency. And unfortunately for any of you who for some reason aren't Emilio Pereira fans, I think we're going to be seeing that a lot more this weekend. And just to make sure you're not confused with Mini GP 50 and Mini GP 50R, Mini GP 50 is entirely 2-stroke motorcycles. The Metrokit's, of course, the class sponsor, being the only bike allowed on track for this one. And a bit of a note though for those 2-strokes is that we might see them struggle as the heat is beginning to build. It was a bit cold this morning, but now it's actually really starting to heat up. As we said before, 23 degrees, it's perfect racing temperature, but the perfect racing temperature for 2-strokes is a bit different to 4-strokes. It's nice and cool right now, but we have no idea what it's going to do tomorrow on Sunday. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. We could see a lot of mechanical issues. We saw a lot of them actually at Lid, especially in the 2-stroke classes. For example, the Senior Mini Moto, that was a lot of issues for many people, mainly to do with chains rather than just engine overheating. But moving on now, there's still some more people though that wish to challenge Emilio Pereira. Caelan Ratcliffe was the best hope to challenge that dominance last time out at Lid, and he looks to continue that one there. I saw him had a bit of a crash earlier. I think it was in the GP70's warm-up session, or sorry, the first qualifying session, and at the hairpin, actually quite similar to the one he had back at Lid in the warm-up lap. And I think that might just be playing on his mind a little bit. We did see that play on his mind a little bit in the race that he did crash out on the warm-up lap, as he had a not the best start to the race, but he eventually came to the floor and regained that confidence.
Exactly that. And well, again, Emilio Pereira, rapid, as per usual. You know, you'd kind of expect him. Don't count out either the 93 of Preston Baker. Took 2 second places over the weekend back at Lid, a DNS in race number 2, so did not start that race, but we'll be looking very, very quick indeed. I do remember a couple of years ago, Emilia Pereira's titanic rivalry in the rookies against this young lady there, the 44 of Nelly Nuth. Again, they had such a good rivalry. You know, their first full year, I guess, of bike racing, both here at FAB and in other championships as well. It was those two constantly fighting at the front. We didn't see too much of them actually squabbling amongst each other. It was just a case that one round Nelly was dominant, the next round Emilia was dominant, and then it all came together when we took to Ella Park for the second round back in 2024. And Emilia Pereira, he's one of those riders that, you know, wears his heart on his sleeve. He really gives absolutely everything he can. So much so that I think back to that championship-defining race. Nelly Nuth, not quite on the pace. She struggled a little bit on pace at Ella Park, both round number 2 and then round number 7 back in 2024. And was just riding to, you know, keep it consistent, didn't really have the championship on her mind. Pereira, on the other hand, was giving it everything. Crashed from the lead, got back on his bike, closed, I think, an 8-second gap to Nelly Nuth, and on the last corner, well, penultimate corner, chucked one down the inside because he knew that's what he had to do. That's, you know, he knew that's what was needed in order to win that championship. In the end, it didn't come to fruition. He came off a second time, but it just goes to show that the measures that these riders will go to when it means so much to them. And Emilia Pereira, I think, is another one of those who isn't scared to be aggressive, knows how good he is, and will sort of carry that forward with him. And hopefully himself and Nelly Nuth can share a similar rivalry in the 50s as they did the rookies.
Yeah, 100%. We're definitely going to see that this weekend. Of course, Nelly getting on the bigger bikes and looking to continue that rivalry. And in fact, that rivalry reminds me a lot of Francesco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin in MotoGP when they were fighting for the world titles in 2023 and 2024. Emilia Pereira sort of being the Martin in that situation, losing out on the title in 2023 and having that, you know, a bit win it or bin it ideology. And you can see that he's now matured and he's progressed in his riding, not only on track but in his own head, and we can see that dominance come to fruition, and he's made that win it or bin it into a win it or bin it but do it right. Yeah,
win it or bin it, but less likely to bin it, I guess, is the botched saying. But yeah, I mean, he is very good, as is Nelly Nuth. Again, they're both very fresh to these, you know, bigger geared bikes. Like I said, it was only last year that Nelly was on the Inters. Pereira, I think, has, you know, spent a lot of time over winter testing and stuff, and that testing, that experience, really helping them. It is a completely different ball game, though. You know, it's one thing going through some slaloms on cones on a training ground. It's another thing arriving to a race weekend with the pressure around you, knowing that you're racing for championship points.
Yeah, and when you go up the classes, especially with the younger riders, these kids in FAB-Racing, it's not just the bikes that get bigger. It's not to be horrible, but the brains that get bigger, and they become more sensible and more smart about how they play a championship battle. And you know, they can say things like, okay, I'll just take this second place because it's a 1 second gap to first place, which of course is monumental at a kart track. So they're just probably thinking, it's okay, second place is fine, it's better than crashing trying to win. It's about the championship. You want to win the championship, not another race.
Exactly that. And that's that maturity, that's that experience that these young riders are learning. Not only, like you say, are they learning to go faster, they're also learning to race better. It's another thing. It's one thing to ride quickly, it's another thing entirely to race quickly as well and efficiently. Maximizing qualifying is another one of those. Again, we'll reiterate, qualifying dictates the starting position for all 3 of their races this weekend. It's a very important session because you mess up qualifying, you're starting at the back for all 3 races. The points for each of the races are the same: 25 for a win, 20 for second, 18 for third position as well. So it does mean that you really do have to be right towards the sharp end, because those points over the course of the season really start to compound.
I'd probably say that this GP50 and the GP50R class is the ultimate midpoint, almost like Moto 2 of the FAB category for kids, and GP70 is obviously that ultimate goal. I think you learn the most in the GP50 classes, both GP50R and GP50, which we've got on track right now, because it's their first experience on geared bikes. It's effectively a big bike. Of course, if you took it to Silverstone, it wouldn't be, but on a kart track, it is the bigger bike. So you've got to learn how to make moves with that bigger bike. With the mini motos, they sort of just wait for an opening and go for it, and of course you do that here, but you have to be much more methodical about that. And someone, in fact, on screen now, who I wanted to really make a shout out for, who I thought's consistency was amazing at Lid, was Preston Baker. Of course, he had a bit of an interruption in race 2. He had a mechanical issue, I believe, because we saw him drop into pit lane after signalling to someone on the pit wall that he had some sort of issue going on as he was dropping quite rapidly down the timetables. But he got 3 podiums, bar, of course, race 2 in that round. So I think he's really looking to continue that consistency, maybe dethrone Caelan Ratcliffe from that 2nd place in the championship and look to chase down Emilio Pereira.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt it in the slightest. I mentioned a bit earlier on that I think, Preston Baker is unbelievably good, and as they all are, again, the stars of the future, representing us here at FAB-Racing. And I think, just again on your point of the transition, to go from a 50 to a 70, it's what? Just a bit more speed, right? To go from a mini moto to a 50, that's a huge jump. It's a huge learning curve. You go from, just twist and go and being, quite low to the ground, quite a low center of gravity, to then jumping onto a big geared bike, having to deal with that change of direction and also then the downshifting and making sure you get the bike in the right gear, upshifting at the right point. In terms of learning curves, to go from a mini moto to a 50, I would argue much more difficult than going from a 50 to a 70.
Yeah, 100%. And for all those people, all those teachers back in the day, it doesn't usually happen as much now. But the ones that say that motorbike racing isn't great for kids to do, it's dangerous and it teaches them to be reckless on bikes or in cars or anything. As Tommy Williams just had a bit of a moment there. He's one that we'll discuss later, his incident with Bo Morris in race 1, but also his good performances. Anyway, the people who say those things, they don't understand how racing in these little championships and gaining respect for the other riders on track, because as we were talking about 50s, teaching riders how to make the harder moves work or decide when they're not going to work, rather than the mini motors, which are much more forgiving, you can just go for it and see what happens. It teaches them those skills in real life. They can be a bit more sensible with what they do, and this paddock is great. The kids, they're not troublemakers, are they? The only trouble they make is on the track, is when they interrupt each other's battles and championships and everything, which is exactly what they need to do. It's that confidence in themselves, and at school it can help them as well. So, all for racing motorbikes.
Yeah, as an education student, I do support that statement. It's so important. I think it teaches you discipline. It teaches you how to win, how to lose, how to be gracious, how to chase improvement as well, because that's what they want to do here. How do I achieve my goals? What is my end goal? How do I get there? And yeah, in terms of the parents, a lot of them used to race themselves. Obviously, we've got Harrison Day joining us today. His father, Josh Day, of course, regular in the FAB-Racing paddock and a huge help to his son. And we see a lot of father-son duos as well. Think of Motor Team with the O'Keefes and now the Appletons, as we'll get onto them a bit later on. There's such a family aspect to that, and when you've got that sort of generational run down through, from father to son or mother to daughter, or however, that experience and passing that on to your child, I think is again another really important part of that journey, to lean on the experience of someone a bit older than you.
Yeah, and I think not enough parents get recognised for the amount they put in. Of course, we know the effort they put in and we acknowledge it, of course, but you only really see riders thank their parents and proper go into in depth with it if they're on a podcast or if they've just won a championship, and it can be a longer interview. But usually it's just, thank you to my family and things like that. But I think more appreciation needs to be given to the parents for putting so much time and effort and love into their kids' careers, because they were probably younger racing themselves or watching racing and thinking, that is my dream. I want to be in that paddock one day. And it's how I grew up. It's commentators as well. Everyone in the paddock here has a passion for motorbike racing, regardless of what job they're doing, and that's what brings us all together. And again, the school thing, it helps them to build a community and friends and teaches them how to communicate with each other on a regular basis. And it's just such a nice thing to see. And we thank you, all those parents who put these kids out on track to prove their amazing talent.
Yeah, and for all of the hard work that doesn't get seen, the long nights, the financial aspect, of course, let's go there, but then the parenting as well as being, I guess, their race coach, their race manager, and having to decipher those two worlds. It's difficult to balance. I can imagine. Riley's only 16, I'm only 20, so we're not going to lecture you about parenting, but you're all doing a fantastic job, and it definitely gets shown out on circuit. Of course, if you are watching this and you want to get yourself on the grid, you're in aspiring racing, definitely do get in touch with FAB-Racing, a new revitalized website for 2026 as well. So it all looks very pretty, should all be fairly straightforward, and hopefully we'll see you back out on the grid for the next round. Still got plenty of races thus far this season. We're on round 2 of 7 in 2026, plus the special event where we take to Silverstone, where I don't think we're going to get tired of talking about that over the course of this weekend. We're going to be mentioning it quite a lot. And of course, still more special news regarding that event still to come. So keep your eyes and ears peeled on social media, on the FAB-Racing Instagram and social channels, on Facebook, and of course here on Motorsport Radio and Motorsport TV. We'll keep you up to date with all things motorsport and all things FAB-Racing, especially on that run up to Silverstone. I'm excited. I'm buzzing for it.
Yeah, I can't wait. And if you didn't know, I've probably told everyone I know about this. But it's my birthday weekend as well, which the British Grand Prix usually is. I was devastated when they moved it back to May. But I'm absolutely buzzing, as you are as well. We all are. The whole paddock cannot wait, apart from maybe Jamie King, because he's a bit upset that there's no Pit Bike 140s out there for the British Grand Prix. But that's irrelevant, because we're wanting to see the next generation of talent in British motorbike racing. And as good as a rider he is, I don't think Jamie King is the next generation of MotoGP riders from Britain.
That's a bit brutal, but I don't think he'd probably argue with you overly too much. We've just had the 50s out on circuit, so now making their way out will be the Extreme 200s for what will be the final qualifying session of the weekend. Now, again, the Extreme 200s typically used, I guess, as a extra bit of track time for some of the 70s and the 50 riders to get themselves, an extra set of races a weekend. But it is also a class that for the senior riders to again get some more track time, to have some fun. And as such, the seniors often complain that they get their backsides handed to them out on circuit by the juniors. And FAB-Racing have made the decision to split the championship. They're all still racing together, and we did see some seniors battling the juniors last time out at Lid, but they are scored separately. So we have got an Extreme 200 senior class and an Extreme 200 junior class, both supported by LRA Moto in 2026. So a lot of fun, and again, the extreme nature of it very evident in the difference of bikes that we see out on circuit.
Yeah, 100%. It is the ultimate mashup class, and there's a few guests out there today, as you may see. Henry McCartney, and of course reigning Extreme 200 champion and GP70 champion, and now Moto 4 British Cup rider Harrison Day out there on his Honda CRF 150, an absolutely trick machine, and he'll be up there battling Finlay Polhill and looking to dethrone him after his perfect weekend at Lid. 3 in a row for him, despite the efforts of Bradley Curtis and Sebastian Gazlawski, as we'll talk about him a bit later. But I would be absolutely livid if I was him to come out of Lid, despite his incredible pace and the amount of battles he was involved in for the lead, to come out with no wins. He is going to be furious, but extremely motivated to get back on it this weekend and show him who's boss.
It's that turning point, isn't it, right? When you respond to falling short, your brain has a very limited window to decide whether it's going to feel sorry for itself or if it's going to turn that into motivation to go forwards. And hopefully for Super Seb Gazlawski, who's got his brother racing for the first time as well this weekend on his same rookies Mini Moto, so that'll be a good story to talk about. He's got that, I guess, that race coach shoes to fill. And I guess maybe that will be a little bit more motivating for Gazlawski as well over the course of this weekend. But you're right, he came perilously close, but just didn't quite have that extra edge. Maybe a bit too cautious at some times, where Bradley Curtis or Finlay Polhill would go for a gap that Gazlawski wouldn't. I'm sure it was a learning curve that he's been able to carry forward, and those lessons forward into 2026. But yeah, Polhill again, differing bikes to Curtis and Gazlawski, who of course are using their metric kits. Finlay, if I'm not mistaken, is on his Avali. So again, we've got that difference in bike. How much of that are we going to see here at Clay Pigeon? Is it going to be an Avali or is it going to be a metric circuit?
I think it'll be more of an Ovale circuit, because on a metric kit it's a 2-stroke. You have to try and stay above the power band. It's not as big of a deal as it might be on maybe some 2-stroke motocross bikes, which I imagine most of the audience would have more experience on compared to any bikes going around here. So if you do know about 2-strokes, you know the power band and how it's so aggressive. It's like, and then you get to that bit and it's like an extreme boost of power.
Go on, do the impression. You started. Nice. Yeah, we need to. I think dub that over some of the content. There we are, following the 76 of Jamie King, Pit Bike Sonic as he's known on YouTube. Again, feeling a little bit under the weather this weekend, which we will establish for the viewers so they all know that when he inevitably finishes inevitably finishes outside of the top 5. But then, if he does get a podium, then it's, sunshine and rainbows, and he'll be at a certain establishment this evening. Also, as well, caught a glimpse of the 64 of Sebastian Gazlawski, the rider that we were talking about. And there you can see Harrison Day's dad there by the fence cheering on his son. Obviously, cheering him on. Previous BSB rider, if I'm not mistaken, is Josh Day. Again, watching on his son and seeing him do very successfully. Harrison Day doing all right in the Moto4 British Cup, of course, over the course of the last recent weeks, and now got a pretty extensive summer break before he's back out and racing. So nice to see them back in the FAB-Racing paddock, where they were literally just a few months ago, where Harrison, of course, took 2 championships.
Yeah, one thing I want to say is that some people don't always appreciate the talent that such top riders like Josh has. Like, maybe he wasn't the most successful in BSB, but just to get to BSB is insane.
Yeah.
We're in the presence of an absolute legend on a motorcycle here, because he was on BSB level in the era of Shaky Byrne, who is the most successful of all time. So he was right up against it, and to get to BSB in that era is incredible. And Harrison Day, I mean, we're seeing that talent flow right through back to him as we now get to him on screen there, being followed by Harrison Quincy on his CRF 150. That talent is so obviously being shown, and he's done an amazing job at progressing Harrison up through his career, and obviously to win 2 titles last year in the GP70s and Extreme 200s. And yeah, just another mention there for Jamie King, of course under the weather, but if you watched his YouTube video, you would have seen he's had some issues with the different brands of tyres. Of course, I won't mention the names that he's been using in that Extreme 200 class. You might have been questioning, or maybe not, why he's at the back of the grid in Extreme 200 compared to being a bit more competitive in Pick Bike 140. But I mean, I'm sure his illness isn't being helped right now, because he's had to go from Pit Bike 140 and get a really quick flag to flag MotoGP style swap when he came into pit lane to get on his Extreme 200 setup and get back out there.
Yeah, exactly that. It's a quick turnaround for Jamie King, and again, racing in 2 classes while you're under the... We're feeding into his delusion, aren't we? We're validating his excuses. But it is, I guess they are valid. He's feeling under the weather. He's got 2 classes to race in. That's physical enough in of itself, and he is getting old, isn't he? 35. He's not as bright as he used to be, but a young rider there, Harrison Day, who is very small on what is a very big bike. He's wrestling it around quite well, isn't he?
Yeah, he's doing fantastic, and not to be horrible, but for once he actually looks like the tallest rider on the grid, because his bike is so much bigger than everyone else's. That is an absolutely trick motorbike, and regardless, it's got an absolutely trick rider on it, as we were just saying about Harrison Day. But just quickly going back to Jamie King, he was saying that the tyre brand that he was using in the Extreme 200s was giving him a lot of fork dive, which made a big issue at Lid. Because of such heavy braking zones and chicanes, and really tight ones at that. So if maybe he has solved those issues, but they're issues that won't be as prominent if they're still around for Lid's perspective here at Clay Pigeon, because you're not very hard on the brakes anywhere, maybe on the way into that first right-hander, but then again you're still leaning at the same time, so you've got to be careful on the brakes anyway as you trail brake in, and also using rear brake to control that slide, especially on a Pit Bike 140 and the bike he's on now in the Extreme 200s class. They're very torquey compared to the GP70s that some of the others are using.
Just a quick rundown as well, provisionally, of how things stand in this session. Finley Polhill currently tops the timesheets, about 6/10 clear of Sebastian Gazlawski, who has set to the 1,000th, as of about 30 seconds ago, the exact same lap time as Bradley Curtis, a 38.003 for the pair of them. Tommy Keats only 0.5 of a second behind that on a 38.070. Frankie Watson, who of course was on pole position for the 70s back at Lid, didn't get the opportunity to really showcase that pace with 2 did not starts following some problems for the number 14, and of course previous 50 champion is Frankie Watson on the number 14. Harrison Day currently sits 6th, ahead of Henry McCartney in 7th. The pair of them separated by 25 thousandths of a second. So hopefully going to be a nice rivalry between the 15 and the 75. 2 veterans of FAB-Racing coming back to show their mettle and again see some old friends during their break. About 4-ish minutes left to go of the final qualifying session of the day before we head to the first of 2 Moto Team races this afternoon. They'll be doing race 1 and 2, and then tomorrow they'll do race 3 and 4. They're feeling a bit extra special this year. They get 4 races. Makes it a bit easier to share the bike, of course, amongst mates, or, because that's how it works. You can then dish it out to have a qualifying session each and then 2 races each, if that is the case. But currently, though, in terms of the Extreme 200 class, Finlay Polhill once more setting the pace. Yeah,
and he's probably just got that confidence carrying over from Lid, as we're just seeing other people we would expect to be that little bit higher up, Gaslavsky, Curtis, and also McCartney and Day. And they're just building into this one. Maybe Finlay Polhill, he's had a bit more track time recently on that Ovale of his, and now he's just getting back out there and enjoying his time on the bike. But it seems like it's been a successful Friday for him, because he's come out swinging for qualifying. But qualifying is not as easy to tell pace as you'd say with bigger classes on bigger tracks, Grand Prix stuff, superbikes, because it's such a small track. Any kart track is such a small track that it makes everything so fine and so little that the tiniest little mistake can mean that you're at the back of the grid. So it doesn't always reflect who's got the best pace in total, I think. And we saw that in the races. We'd see someone qualify maybe half a second quicker at Lid, especially with the nature of that track. But then in the race, it was an incredible battle. I think one comes to mind. It was the AC40 Inters, which I can't wait to watch again. Jensen Brown versus Daisy Grayson, yeah. That was incredible as well. Logan Paisley was also getting in the mix there. He was a little bit further back in qualifying, but then he really came to the floor. And yeah, I think we're going to see that in Extreme 200 with the experience of Harrison Day and Henry McCartney. And I think one of those things that I've been talking about a lot today, the differences between the 2-stroke and the 4-stroke, and how that's going to benefit some of the riders here at Clay Pigeon. And we'll get to see that, because last year we had an extremely tight rivalry between Harrison and Henry at this exact race, Clay Pigeon in the Extreme 200 class. So, as I mentioned before, Harrison Day on a Honda CRF 150 and Henry is on his KTM SX85. Of course, 2-stroke KTM, 4-stroke Honda. That is going to make for some really interesting battling, because there's going to be different strengths. And to add another thing to that between them is that Henry's really tall and Harrison's really short, so there's different advantages there as well. So there's endless things. It's completely polar opposites of advantages, and that's the amazing thing about Extreme 200. There's just so much to choose from.
Yeah, again, putting the Extreme in the name, we can see we've got the timing tower up there on the left-hand side of your screen. It is Finlay Polhill that currently sits on provisional pole position ahead of Tommy Keats, Sebastian Gaslavsky, Bradley Curtis and Frankie Watson, your top 5. Now, what I do want to bring your attention to in the senior category, Zach Torian, the 189, down in 17th position. He took 3 of the senior victories back at Lid. Seems to be struggling a little bit here at Clay.
Yeah, might not just be as comfortable, or maybe caught Jamie King's sickness bug.
Potentially.
Considering he's in the same class. And on the
don't know why you've been close enough to Jamie King to catch something.
That is true. He is, of course, leading the senior class at the moment. He took all 3 wins last time out. This is his only classes. You may be questioning why Chris Wells, and Ben Simpson as well, who are so fast in pit bike 140s, are struggling a bit in this class, and it's because of just those small differences. Both being pit bikes can make a big difference, because your brain sort of gets too comfortable with the thing that you've been most used to, and that is the pit bike 140s, because they are prioritizing those bikes, because they're not all that bothered about winning these races. Of course they'd want to, and they go for it, but if they could choose a race to miss out on this weekend, Chris and Ben and Jamie, you'd feel like, would choose the Extreme 200. And that's not taking anything away from Zach Torian, because his main objective, which we explored in Lid, isn't even to win the senior race, it's to beat his son, Dylan, in the junior class.
Did you ever find out if they settled that £1,000 bet?
No, in fact, we need to ask them about that, because there is some money owed to Dylan after that one. You might see Zach at the top of the timesheets and the standings for the senior class, but I think it was 2 out of 3 that he did lose to his son. So expect a bit of a transaction going into Dylan's account, or maybe a cash situation for Zach. It might have happened, it might not have already, or Zach might have just lied, so Dylan will go a bit faster that weekend.
It does help, or it's a case of suck it up, I pay for your racing. Maybe that's the what you can use, the excuse that you can use. There you can see some of the Motor Team riders getting themselves ready. Again, a very extensive class in 2026's Motor Team, and a reminder of it, how it works. Of course, the emphasis on the team. So it's the number, it's the bike that scores the points. It does mean that you can swap out the riders over the course of the weekend. Now, a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. But there is a bike on the grid, the Gold Member Bike, which is an arrive and ride feature. You can, come for a weekend, you can do a race, you can do two. And if you have got some mates, like you said earlier on, you can get yourself a 125. Look at the regulations, of course, don't take our word as gospel, but get yourself on the grid and you can split the cost with a mate. You can do a qualifying session each, and you can do 2 races each over the course of a weekend as well. So I guess it does make sense as to why they have now got 4.
Yeah, and as you can see there, actually, the number 27, GSXR 125, at least in fairing. I don't see why it would be any other motorcycle. That is definitely a GSXR 125, I believe, in the standard class. So that is quite literally what you can do. I mean, if you've got a mate who's got a 125, perhaps he's 17, 18, just get out here and do it. It's the amazing thing. You guys can work together. It's something my dad was actually quite interested in. It's been a while since he's been racing, but he wanted to do something like that. Because there's 4 races, you could split them, 2 races for 2 riders across the weekend, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, and you can respond to each other and have a teammate, which doesn't happen in FAB. You don't talk to your teammates, and even if you do have them, the only team that I think would comes to mind is the Danny Webb GP camp. But even then, I highly doubt that Frankie Watson and Sebastian Gazlavsky go sharing data or any pointers really. But that's the great feeling of Moto Team, because you can just come in and enjoy it and have a good time with your mates, and you're not working together for once. You are working together for once. Sorry, the banter is gone because you're working together to get that win. It's all about finding who's stronger where, and where the bike is stronger compared to others as we now get on the grid.
We do indeed. So the way the starting procedure is going to work for this weekend, they roll to the grid. Once everyone's gridded up, they'll go for a formation lap, they'll grid up again, and then we'll go racing. A short run towards turn 1. So again, remind us, I guess, of how lap 1 plays out with Clay Pigeon. That run through T1 into T2 on a very busy grid like Motor Team.
Yeah, it looks like we've got SFC there on pole position, and a really good weekend for that team. They get 2 wins and 2 podiums in those 4 races last time out, and they're leading a good chunk of 12 points over Ian Jackson, who actually I can't really see on the TV at the moment, so it'd be a shame to see if they're not continuing their championship challenge. But Team Acme Racing are going to be looking for revenge. They had a crash in the final race of the season and then continued on to try and recover like Daisy Grayson did and repeat that performance of getting back into the top 5, but unfortunately they had a technical issue midway through the races. We now see that Talent Cup style, of course older Talent Cup style bike, by fairings only, not by engine, of course, as we formerly mentioned, 125. It looks fantastic. It was green last time out, but now it's black, so don't get confused, because the man second in the championship, the team second in the championship, fortunately not here, but Team Acme Racing definitely looking to take it to SFC this time out.
And from what I've been able to tell as well, the rider of Team Acme had to travel to Basingstoke to get a new rear subframe for their bike, an hour and 45 from here to rebuild the bike overnight, so quite extensive. Let's run you through the grid very quickly. Team Acme Racing will take to pole position alongside Team SFC on row number 1. Thomas Dudson from Ivano Di Francesco on row 2. Adam Harris, Ben O'Keefe share row 3 from Mario Gelli. George Knights on row 4. Robert Leveridge and Daniel Baker will complete the top 10 from Paul Kelly, Harrison O'Keefe in P12. The Gold Member Bike in 13th, that's Jamie Appleton ahead of his father Peter Appleton, making an all Appleton 7th row of the grid. Martelou, Collingwood and Phil Joyce, the 17th and final bike to take to the start. Can see a couple of gaps though, but for the first time today it'll be eyes to the lights. Look for the 133 on the inside of the number 8 for Motor Team. Race number 1, round number 2 of the FAB-Racing British Minibike Championship is go here at Clay Pigeon. An equal start between the top 2, but Team Acme Racing will have the advantage down towards turn number 1. SFC will try and fire one the long way around, but can't quite manage it through the long sweeping turn number 2 into the tight and twisty chicane. That run now towards the horseshoe. A good start from our pole sitters of Team Acme.
Absolutely incredible. A brilliant start to kick off racing here at Clay Pigeon. They were brushing shoulders heading down into that first corner, and how long were we talking about how risky it is to make a dive up the inside on these bigger bikes, and Team Acme just threw our suggestions out the window and showed us how it's done, and now leading the race after probably a bit of a disappointing round at Lid. I mean, 3rd in the championship despite their pace. Again, complaining about 3rd, but they're now chasing down that incredible lead that they've already built up ahead of SFC. But if we know anything from the previous round, is that SFC will come along as the races go by and the laps go by, the experience is gained, and we can see improvements being made. A good showing from Thomas Dudson to make it onto the front row in the standard class. Of course, not many people in the open class, but we can see the number 141 there, currently running in third overall. That being Ivano Di Francesco in the standard class, leading that class and currently on the podium overall, with Thomas Dudson close behind. So we're going to see some amazing battles between them as well, and it actually looks like they're keeping up with Team SFC here.
Yeah, indeed. So the 133 struggling a little bit. We've got a 3-bike train beginning to form. The 141 of Ivano Di Francesco on that all-white machine. Behind that, of course, the number 20 of Thomas Dudson. We'll see as they emerge their way out of turn number 2 and on that run to the chicane. Team FAB-Racing rising to the challenge. I mean, in qualifying, they were 0.8 of a second quicker than Team SFC. 41.620 for Acme, a 42.458 going the way of SFC. Behind that, it was quite close. Dudson a 42.7, Ivano Di Francesco as well a 42.7. So in terms of gaps, the gap between second, third and fourth significantly smaller than the gap between first and second. There you can see the red and white 133 leading this train. We're currently running in second position. Now, where can the move get done? We're ticking, of course, our way through this 12-lap race, and potentially a look there from the 141. Ivano Di Francesco definitely eyeing up that move, but stuck in the middle of this train as down the inside will think the fourth place rider, and that's the problem that Di Francesco finds himself in. He's stuck behind SFC, can't get the move done, meanwhile under pressure from Thomas Dudson. Yeah,
Thomas Dudson had a really strong round in the standard class at Lid, leading the championship now, and he's looking to get that move done and get into the lead. It was a very brave move if he got that done, and he did the smart thing and waited. It is only lap 2, so he's got plenty of time to go to pass that white motorcycle in front of him, the number 141 of Ivano Di Francesco. Also had a relatively strong round as well last time out at Lid, as they actually now getting all over the back of the number 133 here. Of course, not many open class bikes. Oh, a bit wide there for Ivano Di Francesco. Thought he had a bit of a problem, but he just slowed the bike down a little bit, used a bit of rear brake perhaps to try and pull it back to the apex, and nearly went into Thomas Dudson on the rejoin. But he's done really well actually to keep that position. But Thomas Dudson now might just realise he's putting him under the pressure, and it's only a matter of time until he cracks once again and there's space for him to go through it. Probably that turn 1 might just be the best place to make a mistake, because if you run wide, you're on the inside anyway.
Yeah, 100%. There you can see SFC still under a lot of pressure. 8 laps left to go. That'll seem to be 7 as Acme crossed the line. Pulling alongside there, the 141 of Di Francesco will try and go to the outside of the opening corner, and you are right, you run a little bit wide, and that does give you the inside, but if you mess it up, if you don't quite commit enough, you've then ruined your entry towards turn number 2. You want to come off the back of T1, and instead of taking the conventional racing line, which is, you know, wide, tight, wide, you want to go wide, tight, tight to keep it to the left to open up turn number 2. The 133 trying to get onto the back of the number 8, but I don't think that is going to be happening anytime soon. The first bit of lap traffic to negotiate, that being the 34 of Spencer Collingwood, already a lap down. Well, as we approach the half distance point in this race, it's interesting to see, I say, a fall from grace for SFC. They're still running P2, potentially even P3 by the time they cross the line to start lap number 7. Around the outside once again, we'll try Di Francesco to go even deeper though. Thomas Dudson, what a move that could well be. Committed on the brakes, but not quite enough there. And SFC struggling for pace out there, barely hanging on for second position. Yeah, 6 laps to go, and Thomas Dudson is really getting aggressive now. He's getting a bit annoyed with being sat there in fourth. Maybe he feels like he has that pace to pass SFC, and doesn't feel like Ivano Di Francesco at this moment in the race has what it takes to get past the number 133. So he actually lost a bit of time there from that attempt, as we actually saw a really good run from Di Francesco. But at the moment, SFC doing a good job to hang on to that second place. And if you didn't know, I'm sure you're watching the amazing action we had in Moto Team at Lid. We did see Acme Racing start to pull away in that race that they crashed out of. But this time it's not wet, so you feel like the confidence is much better, and you have a lot less doubt that something's going to go wrong for them if they've managed to pull a gap this early and this big. Yeah, exactly that. Just 5 laps left to go. Team Acme are the ones to chase down and the ones to beat. Putting a lap on the number 7 there. That's Peter Appleton. Started this race in 14th position, and well, all 3 of our riders make their way through, but the inside opens up through the horseshoe. What a move that was there from Di Francesco on the 141 all-white machine. SFC could be under pressure here from Thomas Dudson. It was a decent qualifying. It was good enough to see the championship leader take to the front row, but now dropping back and under a bit of pressure. Ivana Di Francesco, though, not waiting for a second invitation to pull out a gap is maybe a problem for the 133 as Thomas Dudson goes straight through and up in the third.
Yeah, now he's finally made that move up into third. Someone's had an issue there. That's a shame for the number 119. Phil Joyce there, unfortunately, started at the back of the grid, clearly having some issues this weekend, and that continues. So hopefully they can regroup for the rest of the weekend. Still 3 races to go in Moto Team. 3 races of plenty more action as we see Thomas Dudson now making his way up into third place, as you just said. That was an amazing move a lap ago at that corner by Ivano Di Francesco. I just wanted to add that. Maybe he heard us saying that Thomas Dudson feels like he's a bit faster than that white 141 machine, and he got in gear and went for it, and now it's all working. He's up in second. He's got a good gap to Thomas Dudson behind, because I think that lap traffic did separate them a little bit more. Acme Racing is absolutely on fire. He's right ahead of the group, way further than this battle we had for the podium, and I think that has really interrupted anyone's chances of winning at the moment. I think, oh, hang on, Ivano Di Francesco just looking down at the bike there, maybe the gear selector possibly having issues there. I'm not quite sure, as we now see our leader Acme Racing, that number 8 machine, the change from green to black, clearly working, at least in terms of speed and luck perhaps, because personally I would have kept it green. It looked fantastic, but perhaps those fairings were damaged in the crash they had in Lid. But now, as he comes around the second hairpin at the moment, 2 laps to go, he is absolutely on fire, and this time I don't think, as I mentioned before, we're going to see a mistake as costly as we did in the wet at Lid, because it's a lap and a half, and you've got plenty of time to chill out and enjoy this one, because he's got a massive gap to Ivano Di Francesco behind. One more lap for Acme Racing to take the flag.
There you can see the number 8. We'll follow them around the final lap of the race. And interestingly as well, of course, there's 2 classes. There's the Open, there's the Standard, as they'll negotiate some of the lap traffic. Will the number 8 machine, Di Francesco and Dudson, both in the Standard class. So, of course, their battle with SFC had a little bit more weight to it. It wasn't an inter-class battle, more so an intra-class battle. The one that, at the moment, Di Francesco will take as, at the moment, the number 8 machine of Team Acme Racing, the red and black. One now negotiating through the horseshoe, some lap traffic. We'll see the checker flag at the end of this one. It has been a sensational redemption ride for Acme after falling short ever so slightly at Lid. 3rd place in the championship. They clap back here at Clay Pigeon. The checker flag will wave and they'll take victory in the opening race of the weekend. Nicely done for Team Acme Racing. They'll of course continue on. Di Francesco from Dudson, 2nd and 3rd position. A nice ride there, you have to say, from the number 8 machine. That was, again, exactly what it needs to be. Clinical and consistent, and well, a nice response as well from, again, like I say, falling short ever so slightly from Lid.
Yeah, realistically, that couldn't have gone any better for Acme Racing. SFC having a bit of issues down in 4th there behind Dudson and Di Francesco, taking the win absolutely dominantly, putting themselves in good stead for the rest of the weekend. 3 races still to come, so things can really get intense, as we saw so many people getting their results upside down in the rest of the races. Sunday looks like it might be a bit of questionable weather, but it's going to be very up and down, so we'll see what Moto Team runs into tomorrow. But again, an absolutely incredible and perfect race for Team Acme. That's exactly what they wanted, to dominate that race, with SFC in 4th and no Ian Jackson at this round, of course. So the big 3 has really been taken storm by Team Acme Racing, as I'm sure they'll be much closer to the championship lead with that one, as originally they were 21 points off, but that gap has got to be more than half now.
There you can see Jamie King, towel around his neck, sorting out the Parc Fermé boards that'll await the arrival of our top 3 overall. As it stands, that's Team Acme, Ivano Di Francesco and Thomas Dudson will hold fire slightly in terms of official results, and let you know as soon as we can, because bikes are still going around out on circuit, so awaiting confirmation, but again, hopefully won't be too much longer, and they'll be making their way down and through scrutineering and in towards that Parc Fermé section. A fantastic ride, like we say, from Team Acme Racing, and exactly what they needed to do. For Thomas Dudson and Ivano Di Francesco, by the way, Thomas Dudson consistent as ever over Lids, took 3 second places and the victory. Ivano Di Francesco taking 2 victories to his name. Unfortunate retirement for the 141 sees him slightly off the back of the likes of Linton Di Miola and Tom Dudson in the Standard Championship, but still very much in the mix. Team FAB-Racing, though, well, you have to say, firing back in the championship in the best fashion possible. Their main competition in the open class is SFC, who, like we say, took 4 podiums, 2 victories to Acme's 3 podiums, 1 victory and 1 retirement. There were some points there to clap back. Team FAB-Racing have done a very good job of that so far. However, SFC still limiting the damage with a 2nd place in class.
Yeah, a decent result for SFC, to be honest. I mean, they'll be quite annoyed to be beaten by 2 standard bikes in the form of Thomas Dudson and Ivano Di Francesco. But I actually want to give a shout out to Ivano Di Francesco. At the start of the race, looking a bit, nervous, and he started to build into it as Thomas Dudson started applying the pressure. We saw the mistakes go from Ivano Di Francesco and Thomas Dudson on the pace, switching around to Ivano Di Francesco on the pace, and making that incredible move in that final sector on SFC, which Thomas Dudson couldn't replicate, be it because of lap traffic. But we believed at first that Thomas Dudson had the better pace, and it was proved that Ivano Di Francesco stepped up and made it work, because it was clear track after they both passed SFC, and Thomas Dudson couldn't quite catch on the last 3 laps. But again, some good action to start off the weekend, and Moto Team always delivering, and it'll only get better as the weekend goes on, as all racing will here at FAB-Racing.
Indeed so. Of course, we'll confirm championship positions and things as soon as we can with official results, but we can confirm, of course, it was Team FAB-Racing and it was Ivano Di Francesco that took their respective victories in both the Open and in the Standard class. That's going to wrap it up for the first race of 2 today for Motor Team. Next up will be AC40 Pro.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. Noah Barfoot was on fire at Lid. A few mistakes here and there, but I'll tell you what, Finley Styles has done a fantastic job there to get on the front row. We saw an amazing battle between him and Randy Carter last time out of Lid, and clearly coming to a track that he really likes at Clay Pigeon. You can't miss him. The white and red motorcycle, not his rival Randy Carter, there in 4th on the grid. It is in fact him in 2nd with the Bradley Smith replica, the Shoei. Absolutely fantastic helmet design, I must say. But here we go then, the warm-up lap getting underway, and Noah Barfoot riding the crest of a wave at the moment. Of course, as I mentioned, a few mistakes at Lid, but he came back, rectified them, and now looks to repeat that.
Yeah, absolutely. 9 laps of racing for these young riders. It'll be Noah Barfoot that will look to continue his domination from Lid here at Clay Pigeon. He took pole position, 43.234, 3/10 of a second quicker than Finley Styles. The number 19 will keep him company on the front row of the grid. James Dermott alongside Randy Carter with Zach Athasich and Jude Good, the 3rd and final row of our 6-rider field for the AC40 Pros. Again, these riders still incredibly young out there on circuit, but a little bit more established, a little bit more experienced in terms of their riding ability, and looking to prove themselves on one of the final stepping stones before they take that jump, that big jump, as we were talking to earlier on, from the mini motos and on to the Metro kits. Well, in a year, maybe 2, it's time. But look out for Noah Barfoot. 2 victories and a 5th place for him, without the presence of Theo Velthausen, who joined us from the Netherlands last time out at Lid. He'll be looking to, well, dominate with little contention.
Yeah, and without Theo Velthausen, who is actually 2nd in the championship going into this race, we're going to see maybe some domination from Noah Barfoot. But here we go then, 9 laps of racing for the AC40 Pros. That final stepping stone to get onto the big bikes, and they're all ready to go. It is time for racing in the AC40 classes. We start off with Pro, and we're starting off into turn 1 is a brilliant start from Noah Barfoot on that yellow machine, who gets away well and looks to repeat that incredible run he had at Lid. But Finley Styles doing a good job in 2nd place. His rival, well, how many times have we mentioned it? Randy Carter's made his way up into 3rd. Are they going to work with each other for once? We didn't see it once in Lid. They were battling right to the very bitter end for the 4th and 5th across the weekend. But now, if they work together, they could catch Noah Barfoot.
They could indeed. Noah Barfoot already establishing a very healthy foothold in this race. As he did back in Lid, all 3 of them, bar the 2nd one where Theo Velthausen was able to maximise. I believe it was a penalty for Noah Barfoot in race number 2 that dropped him down. Well, he's taken no prisoners on the opening lap. Look at the sheer commitment at such a young age through a very fast sweeping left-hander, opening up turn number 2. A look to the inside between Randy Carter and James Dermott as they're battling for 3rd position in the opening race of the AC40 Pro weekend. Their one and only race this afternoon. Fights throughout the field there. You can see the number 19 of Finley Stars being chased down by the 27 of James Dermott, who himself is being chased down by the 69, of course, of Randy Carter. In fact, Randy Carter threw and up into third. James Dermott, the one chasing them down on the black and pink machine.
Yeah, not the biggest grid at the moment for this round, but it is still going to be amazing action nonetheless, as we can now see James Dermott trying to make a play for the podium, the final podium spot, towards Randy Carter ahead, and maybe catching Finley Styles. He's got plenty of time to do it, and we now move to a different way of riding here at Clay Pigeon. We were saying earlier about how difficult it is and how much you need to focus on getting that big bike stopped into the first corner, but now we're on the smaller bikes. It's all about that corner speed, and every corner affects the next, and that's what teaches these young kids how to be a great motorcycle racer. Every single corner affects the next, and Noah Barfoot has set everyone up perfectly so far. 7 laps to go, and he is in a dominant form at the moment.
Yeah, fight a bit further back as well. I think that's Jude Good, who we've just been seeing battle already, I think, actually under pressure from Noah Barfoot. The 36 coming through on the 33. I think it may be a bit of a problem having to sit the bike up through the very long right-hander. Potentially just getting caught out there was Jude Good. Currently, qualified in P6, was only 3.5 seconds off the pole position time, so a lot to learn, but doing so with every single lap. And again, at such a young age, they are learning something new every single lap. It's not like, on the 70s where they may be learning something every round. With these young riders in the rookies and the pros and the inters, almost every lap there's something to have taken away from it. A different braking point, a different turning point, a different getting back on the power point, different line to have taken, a new approach, or just getting more used to the speed that they're taking through the corners. For these young riders, they really are learning constantly on the bike.
Yeah, and to be honest, with this class being that little bit smaller this weekend, it's sort of expected, because these kids have spent so long now on the AC40 bikes, these mini motos, that they're looking to move that step up. And nearly everyone here, as we're just having an issue, that's Jude Good, I believe, who was unfortunately doing quite well. He's battling for 5th with Jude Good. Joey Athasic.
Zach
Athasic got confused with the other Athasic, who in fact was in this class last year and battled for victory with Tommy Williams. He was in the top 3 of the points finishers from Clay Pigeon last year on the AC40 Pros. But as I was saying, these smaller classes, these kids are going to be spending a lot of their year at different tracks and trying to learn the bigger bikes. I've seen videos on Instagram of Finley Styles getting on ovales and trying to get used to life on a bigger bike. So really, at this point, this AC40 Pro class is just keep them up to speed with their racing. But nonetheless, it is still very important, and they're going to go absolutely all out to get that first position, as we're now seeing this amazing rivalry that we saw all through Lid engage again, but this time for a podium position.
Yeah, so we've got Finley Styles, we've got Randy Carter, and we've got James Dermott all battling for second position. They can forget the lead. Noah Barfoot has extinguished any hope of that round Clay Pigeon. Bit wobbly through the very long, very demanding long right-hander to round off the lap, then into a quick flick to the left to open up turn number 2. James Dermott closing the gap. Oh, and he's dropped it! Down in towards turn number 2, he's dropped it! Tried to get it turned back in, was still leaning to the left while he tried to get it back over to the right. The bike said absolutely not. And that is James Dermott's day done and dusted, and you can see devastated against the tyre barrier.
What did I say a lap ago? These kids, it still means everything to them regardless. Maybe they are moving up to bigger bikes next year, but this is showing us that desperation to win and be the best. As you can just see James Dermott getting off the track there. A bit of a dangerous place to stand and be upset about a poor result, because quite a lot of people... Oh! That's a big accident for Randy Carter as he goes into the wall. I think just got caught up with Finley Styles. Thankfully, the bike getting moved out of the way, and Randy Carter back up quite quickly despite that rather fast and aggressive crash into the tyre wall. That's a really big shame to see, because he was in a tight battle with Finley Styles. But here we go then, a lap and a half to go for Noah Barfoot. Once again, that yellow machine shooting to the lead of the race, and no one knew where he went.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, no, it did, and it was up in front. A huge shame there, and again, through such a long corner where you're leaning down, it's so easy for the bike to slip, and, well, that rear wheel we saw there just on the, while it was upside down, still the rear wheel spinning. Nonetheless, Noah Barfoot has been clinical relative to the rest of the field. Less than a lap to go to take what will be his third victory from so far 4 races in 2026. 75% win rate for Noah Barfoot, provided he can keep it on the track. Not bad in the slightest.
Yeah, and here comes Noah Barfoot then. Only half a lap for him now to take yet another victory. This will be his 3rd victory of the season after 2 wins at Lid and that rain-affected race 2, which unfortunately had him crash out of the lead and Fea Feldhausen winning, but nonetheless, he's come back despite that. We saw him win again on the comeback at Lid, and he extends that comeback with victory here at Clay Pigeon. Another brilliant performance for Noah Barfoot, and we said earlier that it was Jude Good having the issue. That was, I believe, Zach Athasic. As you can see him at the bottom of the standings, because Jude Good comes home for 3rd at the end there, and Finley Styles a really good 2nd place, equaling his qualifying result. So he'll be very happy with that, but maybe a little bit more motivated to next time out tomorrow get a bit closer to Noah Barfoot this time, not get caught up in the battle which we saw behind. And we're actually saying a lot about turn 1 and how difficult that is to get right. We saw it just there. James Dermott, a big mistake, and it's almost the opposite of what you do on the big bikes. These small bikes, you take the wider line in for an inside line because you cut under afterwards. You don't go straight up the inside, whereas it almost looked like he tried to do that and got too aggressive on the brakes, and it ultimately washed out and in he went to the tyre wall.
Indeed so. Let's run you through the provisional results as they crossed the line. It was Noah Barfoot that took victory from Finley Styles. Jude Good, by virtue of staying on the bike, finishes P3 with those behind Randy Carter, James Dermott and Joey Athasic. The rest of the field, all of whom dropping the bike in, well, I think Joey Athasic had some problems, but we saw Randy Carter and, of course, that was Randy Carter and James Dermott both dropping the bikes, both at turn 1 and the final corner, respectively, for the pair of them. Noah Barfoot, though, will extend the lead in the championship, taking 3 wins, 3 podiums, and 4 top 5s from the 4 races so far this season. That's going to wrap it up, of course, for the AC40 Pros. Next out on circuit, of course, some riders, potentially for a lot of them, their first ever race weekend here at Clay Pigeon. It's time for the AC40 Rookies.
Okay, then we are back for the AC40 Rookies. More AC40 action coming your way. The youngest of talents here in FAB-Racing. Everyone out there, just have fun. No pressure of a big championship battle to go at it. And we saw that pressure being lifted off the shoulders of Albie Stone, because he was incredible at Lid. Incredible. Probably the best performance of the whole weekend compared to some other riders. Of course, different situations make for different comparisons, but it was actually just insane. Not once did he get challenged for that victory. Fastest lap after fastest lap, and was in a whole nother class. He probably could have gone into the AC40 Inters and been very competitive.
Indeed so. Just looking at the grid as well for the Rookies Cup, trying to have a bit of a look for Albie Stone. He definitely isn't inside the top 10. I don't think he's actually joining us on the grid. In fact, no, he's not. But Harry Burridge, who will be starting on pole position, will be alongside Tyler J. Windard. He, of course, going into this, 3rd place in the championship, 2nd, 3rd and a 4th for the 18 over the 3 races back at Lid. So we'll be looking to go a little bit better than that. Of course, this is the first step on a lot of young riders' journey to the top in the FAB-Racing paddock and beyond. They start here in the Rookies Cup, they go all the way to the top, to the Metrokit Mini GP 70s, and then beyond to the likes of the Moto4 British Cup, to Red Bull Rookies, and then hopefully for them beyond that, maybe they go and race in Europe a little bit later on. Speaking of the Moto4 British Talent Cup, and of course the Metrokit Mini GP 70s, a very special 70 race happening today. We've got 3 of them over the weekend, but definitely from broadcast side, an exciting one this weekend. Nonetheless, the AC40 Rookies are getting their way out on circuit. We can talk a lot about those that are succeeding in their journey to the top. These young riders still got a very, very long way to go indeed. And, well, Riley, for Harry Burridge, it's a perfect start to round number 2. He'll start this one from pole position.
Yeah, a really good lap from him to get pole position at 49.8. A really good chunk ahead of the rest of the field. Tyler J. Windard not too far behind, to be fair, with a 50.1, but the rest of the grid struggling to keep up with Harry Burridge in qualifying. But we said earlier on in the broadcast about how qualifying matters a lot less because these kids sometimes they just don't feel it. They're not, especially in AC40 rookies, they're not professional racers yet, and I put the emphasis on the yet because the talent we see here at FAB is incredible. And there, as Valentino Rossi would put it on pole position, we can see the Valentino Rossi colours and replica on pole position in the form of Harry Burridge, as they all want to become Valentino Rossi in terms of the incredible talent that was the Doctor. Now, here we go then, on the grid, ready to get the warm-up lap started and ready for action in the AC40 rookies. We saw a pretty dramatic race there in the AC40 pros with Noah Barfoot being on fire, and they'll be looking to replicate Albie Stone's performance. He's not here this weekend, but actually that's something we mentioned at LID. AC40 rookies, it's local riders, and they choose the rounds they come to maybe half the season, and they choose whichever one's closer to them, and they're going to be masters of those tracks, and that is going to reflect all the way through their FAB career because they have so much more experience. If you look at BSB, which these kids have the talent to get to one day, as we, nearly the entire BSB grid was crafted here in FAB-Racing, that's going to be reflected. The tracks that they've been to more are going to be the tracks that they are stronger at, but nonetheless they can turn up to the tracks that they haven't been to and learn them, and that's the skills that you develop in the AC40 classes, and as you go up each stage it's a new skill learned, and one of them that we're going to see here is quite literally just how to race and how to get back up and not cry about it if you crash, because there's another opportunity tomorrow. Yeah,
exactly that. The fight back is just as important as the fight itself. How do you bounce back from adversity? That truly is how you craft the champion. Big shout out as well to the class sponsor, Grassroots to Grand Prix, for their support of rookies, and of course talking about them, and of course their support for the series, talking about the special event at Silverstone, the Junior GP event, their huge amount of support amongst others for that event, lowering the entry cost, giving these young riders that opportunity to be on such a big stage would not be possible without the support of Grassroots to Grand Prix and all of our class sponsors who have been around in FAB Racing for quite some time. Nonetheless, the AC40 Rookies race about to get itself underway, their first of 3, and of course with Harry Burridge on that pole position, he'll be looking to keep that by the time they reach turn 1 and turn 2.
Here we go then, it is time for AC40 Rookies to get underway. And of course we have Harry Burridge on pole ahead of Tyler J. Windard. He was actually someone we saw last time out at LID. But enough talking about what happened at LID and more about what's happening at Clay Pigeon. We are getting underway now as the lights are about to go out here at Clay Pigeon for the AC40 Rookies. First race of the day is underway. Someone in the middle of the pack there got an absolutely sensational start. Not quite sure who that was, because funnily enough, actually a lot of these riders wearing yellow, and currently 1, 2, 3, a lot of people wearing yellow suits. But at the moment it is Harry Burridge who leads the race. A fantastic start for him, reflecting what we saw in qualifying.
Yeah, exactly what he needed to do as well is Harry Burridge. He's, well, getting a good launch now towards the horseshoe. You can see the frenzy of AC40 rookies. We had 25 of them take to the start of this race, and that melee here at a very, fairly small circuit of Clay Pigeon, very fast circuit of Clay Pigeon, but relatively small. It does get quite busy, quite dense in these larger classes. So far so good though for the number 29 of Harry Burridge. Tyler J. Wynard though will be looking for his first victory of the season. He's finished second, he's finished third, he's finished fourth. He wants to go one better than that, side by side across the line, and a swap for the lead as well. I think Harry Burridge falling victim to the offence from the number 8, sweeping their way through turn 2 and now towards the chicane at 3 and into 4. That chase towards the horseshoe. The number 8 of Tyler J. Windard now the one actually dropping behind and into second under a bit of pressure, as reassuming the race lead is Harry Burridge, our pole sitter. There is the number 8 though in the fluorescent yellow and blue. That of course is Tyler J. Windard, under still a little bit of pressure from the rider in third position who will be applying that over the next lap. It's only 8 for the AC40 rookies, as what a move that was, sweeping around the outside, potentially the number 9 of Hudson Heaps as they negotiate their way towards the back end of the circuit. Not necessarily a move you see overly often, but had the agility and kept the throttle open in order to get that move signed, sealed and delivered.
That is quite literally the deficit, or the definition even, of how to make a move on these small bikes. It's the complete opposite of what you see on the big bikes. And Moto Team, we actually saw a move similar to that, but that was based on sending up the inside and sitting up, but that was completely corner speed made, and it was such an incredible move. And when you see moves like these, it's so amazing to see, because these kids, they're going to go so far with racecraft like that.
Yeah, spotting the move, knowing how to deal with it, and knowing how to deal with the differing levels of grip. And well, he's going to try it again as the number 9, Hudson Heaps. Oh, goodness me, he gave it a go. You could see the bike was squirreling underneath him, desperate to try and find some traction. Not a lot of power in the AC40s, but he's using all of it and then some, trying to maximize the grip there and just carry more minimum speed than his competitors. He definitely knows where his strong suit is, and he'll be looking to exploit that himself. And, of course, that's Eros Garrett, the 84, chasing after Tyler J. Windard for second position. The pair of them doing battle. Meanwhile, Harry Burridge builds a lovely gap as we approach half distance in this race. 5 to go as they last cross the line. 4 to go this time by side in the fight for second. Defensive goes to number 8 Machine as Eros Garrett will try and get the up and the under. Closing the gap though as Hudson Heaps misses the apex at the horseshoe. But you can almost bet your bottom dollar he'll try and gain as much of that time back through this long sweeping left-hander as possible. He is going to keep the throttle pinned as he gets pinched to the inside with some of the back marker traffic. Now tries to keep the cornering speed up towards the final corner and apply some of that pressure on the back of Eros Garrett.
Yeah, Burridge has just got away absolutely fantastically, and we're seeing a replication of what Albie Stone did at Lid, and we're going to see that a lot in AC40s, but nonetheless we still get an incredible race because it's ultimate fun, and that's why you should get your kids here racing in AC40 rookies. There's no championship pressure. We have sponsors, but they're sponsors that are here to help produce fun rather than put pressure and say, if you don't get these results, we're going to stop sponsoring you. Of course, the class sponsor being Grassroots to Grand Prix, and it's in the name. It's taking your kids from the Grassroots to the Grand Prix levels. All the riders that have come through the AC40 Rookies Championships, and ultimately it's sort of like a dad and lad, or dad and daughter, or even mum, taking these kids just to the events to have fun. And we were saying earlier, prioritizing the championship is so important, and it's what you learn as a young rider. But we're seeing that progress now into the race being the main thing that we're focusing on as we move lower into the classes, because no championship pressure. It's all about having fun, and we're seeing that here. An incredible battle at the moment, and some incredible moves being pulled off as we now have 3 laps to go. And there's another amazing move, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Hudson Heaps there, finding his way through, using his minimum speed advantage, but straight back through there goes Eros Garrett. And that's sort of been the talk there, is that Hudson Heaps, very good on entry, throws the bike in, gets it, to the apex or thereabouts, then obviously opens up the throttle, uses it through this long sweeping left-hander, but then of course runs out of room, has to back out to then get it back to the left to sweep it to the right. So he's hard on entry, and then it does compromise him a little bit on exit. You'll see that through the long sweeping corners. He does get the move done though on Eros Garrett as we cross our way onto what would be the penultimate lap of racing as they dart their way through some of the lap traffic towards the back end of the field. That's something they've got to deal with as well. Down the inside, I think actually of Winded did go Eros Garrett, so he's going to find a way through. Now the number 8 versus the number 84, still with a lap and a half left to go, but Eros Garrett using his advantage of that entry speed to catapult his way up in a second. Yeah, with moves like that, you can tell that Hudson Heaps is loving Clay Pigeon, and he's having so much fun out there. He's sending and trying. Oh no! He's dropped right it. As we were singing his praise, I am so sorry, Hudson Heaps, because now he has gone down, unfortunately having too much fun. Unfortunately, maybe trying to go for a move, might have been some lap traffic, we don't want to speculate, but unfortunately he has gone down, and now his podium chances are over. But he's got another chance at it tomorrow, so make sure you're okay. Oh, big contact there as Eros Garrett, I think that was, going around the outside of some lap traffic. Thankfully everyone getting out of that relatively unscathed and not in the tyre wall. But now 1 lap to go, and Burridge has just been incredible. So Harry Burridge, the number 29, the current leader of this race, going to be quite a way in front of the number 8 of Tyler J. Windard, currently making their way through the chicane. So Burridge, try and pick him out through the traffic. He's, now making his way through the long left of the horseshoe. The number 29, he's looking strong and has been just, levels above the rest of the field today. Yeah, we're seeing this in all the AC40 classes. We're seeing a dominant force
as they progress through the classes. And here he comes now to the line. Harry Burridge wins race 1 of AC40 Rookies here at Clay Pigeon, having a lot of fun, as they all are. I've said that so many times, but it's motorbike racing. Everyone out there is having fun. Tyler J. Winded in second as well. A really good job from him to fend off Hudson Heaps and Eros Garrett. Eros Garrett will be happy with that third place, I'm sure, especially after that close shave going into the last lap. All right, then. It is a win for Harry Burridge. Tyler J. Winded finished second. Eros Garrett in third, as we now wait for the results to pop up. We're just going to wait for everyone to head back home. But what a shame for Hudson Heaps. He is hopefully going to come back tomorrow and express that incredible energy in this heat as well. These kids have got endless energy, and they're going to be battling all the way to the end. And we saw that from Hudson Heaps right there, and he'll have another opportunity at it tomorrow. But I was really impressed with the rest of the podium finishers as they now come to the podium, and we'll now get the results before heading to the next race.
Harry Burridge, the one taking victory, 9.9 seconds, his winning margin. Tyler J. Winded, another second position, his third podium of the season. Eros Garrett in, of course, third position. He takes what will be, again, his third place of the season from Miller, Baker, Fletcher, Tyler, Spedding, Irwin and Simmons, your top 10. Shout out as well to Harry Burridge. Didn't join us at Lid. This was his first race of the season. He's poled it and he's won it.
Yeah, and that seems to be the format of AC40 Rookies at the moment. Track specialists come to the track they love so much and dominate. It's a one-time thing. You're not going to see the same riders every single time, because we'll remind you that there isn't championship standings for this class, because it is just about enjoying and learning how to race, and learning how to race fair as well, and a fun day out for the family. If you want to get your kid racing, we said this earlier, in the AC40 Rookies, it's the perfect place to start here at FAB-Racing, because they craft absolute legends in the sport of motorcycle racing, and that was a legendary performance from Harry Burridge.
It was indeed. Of course, that's going to wrap it up for the AC40 Rookies, supported by Grassroots to Grand Prix and their support of the series of FAB-Racing as a paddock and Grassroots Racing as a whole. And again, that special mention to the Silverstone Junior GP event when we take to, well, the kart circuit, the fantastic venue, the home of British Grand Prix Racing is Silverstone. Another massive announcement regarding that coming in the near future, so keep your eyes and ears peeled on social media. And again, a big thank you to Grassroots to Grand Prix for their support in the respective event. That's going to wrap it up for the rookies today. They've got 2 more races for round number 2 of the Mastermac FAB-Racing British Minibike Championship here at Clay Pigeon to take to tomorrow. Next up, though, it's time for the AC40 Inters. This
was some amazing action back in Lid, if you remember. Hopefully you were watching it, because I couldn't take my eyes off it. It was an amazing battle between Jensen Brown, Daisy Grayson and Logan Paisley. You can see they're all lining up on the grid. But one name that we were mentioning could have done well in the Inters class is now in the Inters class, and that is Albie Stone, lining up in 5th. Maybe just taking a bit to adjust to being in that Inters class. Of course, no difference in machinery, but in level and experience, it does start to engage into the professional racer mode. As you can see, Daisy Grayson revved up there in 2nd on the grid, but on pole position is Austin Bayton, who was quite fast and also challenging for the podium out there. But the championship leader, Jensen Brown, off the front row. That could make something interesting into turn 1. All right, then, the grid for the full grid for this race. We've got 5 riders out there. Austin Bayton lines up on pole, a 45.6 for him. Absolutely fantastic. Daisy Grayson was 2nd with a 46.4, so quite a ways off, but watch out, because we're still going to see some incredible fights. Jensen Brown lines up 4th behind Logan Paisley, little brother of Riley Paisley, you may have seen in former years here at FAB-Racing. And then Albie Stone 5th on the grid, and Chase Carter rounding out that top 6 in the AC40 Inters class. As we now just get to the end of the warm-up lap, that is the biggest gap we've seen in qualifying all weekend. How, if you're Daisy Grayson, do you go about beating Austin Bayton, who's clearly a master of Clay Pigeon at the moment?
Yeah, exactly that. Austin Bayton off the back of round number 1 at Lid, a 3rd, a 4th and a 4th for the 100 machine. Daisy Grayson, a 4th and 2 second positions, came perilously close to victory over last round. Logan Paisley took a victory in race number 1. Jensen Brown was the other one to rise to the occasion. He starts this race in 4th position, and the level of competition that we've got round by round, like you say, as the locals, more familiar with respective circuits, especially at this level, you are going to see different riders shine through. And again, because they've still got so much to learn, there might be a quick turnaround and one of them exponentially finding more lap time from one round to the next and fighting right towards the front. Consistency is the name of the game in the Inters class, supported by LS2 helmets. It's eyes to the lights for race number 1 of round 2 of the LS2 helmets AC40s Inter class. It's Austin Baton alongside Daisy Grayson. Lights go out and we go racing. A slow start there from Daisy Grayson. She could well get swamped by the time they reach the opening corner at turn number 2. Nicely done though from the lead from pole position for Austin Baton. The number 100 will solidify that run towards the chicane. Daisy Grayson perilously hanging on and desperately trying to stay with the likes of Logan Paisley on the 25 and Jensen Brown on the 171. The 25, the green and white machine of Logan Paisley up through and into 2nd place on that one.
Yeah, there was only one podium last time out at Lid in the midst of that chaos that we saw in the AC40 Inters for Austin Baton. He's 4th in the championship coming into this race, but looks like he's got some newfound confidence to further solidify himself in the championship battle with Daisy Grayson, Logan Paisley and Jensen Brown, who Logan Paisley actually made an amazing move up the inside of Daisy Grayson into turn 1 to take 2nd place, and Daisy Grayson might actually be looking to pay that one back here, and she's going to wait for it. That is a smart decision once again by Daisy Grayson. That's something we were actually talking about at Lid, is that she seems to be able to gauge where she's at in races really well, and that's her biggest strength, is that she's sensible with what she does. She did have a crash, but it happens to everyone.
Yeah, exactly that. And again, like I say, it's the pick-up more than anything, is straight down the inside there. Excellently late on the brakes. I think that was Jensen Brown who was able to get involved. Nicely done indeed. Superbly late on the brakes following the battle. Daisy Grayson a little bit wide off the exit of the 2nd left-hander, and now towards the final corner will look the nose to the inside of this long right to round off the lap, but backs out of it versus Logan Paisley trying to get involved as well. The rest of the field as they cross the line. It's Grayson closely battling with Logan Paisley down the inside though. Nicely done through turn number 1. That was brave, it was bold, and it was brilliant from Daisy Grayson to find a way back in a 2nd position, showcasing she's got the pace to run at the front, finds a way back in a 2nd. Behind Paisley now goes Albie Stone and Jensen Brown, who's, well, not been shy on his debut in the Inters.
Yeah, perfectly paid back from Daisy Grayson. I actually said a lap before she was looking to do that, and again, supporting my claim that she's really sensible with what she was doing. She had that comeback at Lid after crashing, and now she waited for that move to be a bit more sensible and sent it up the inside of Logan Paisley, but perfectly managed to make him jump a little bit, and it took him by surprise. Now she's got a really strong gap. She's put Logan Paisley back in to Albie Stone and Jensen Brown as they now duke it out for the final place on the podium with 6 laps to go. So we now see Jensen Brown trying to respond to Albie Stone, but can't quite get the measure of last time out's AC40 rookie star.
Yeah, exactly that. Albie Stone, of course, taking that step up, realised that he, doesn't learn as much dominating in one class, and, well, definitely being challenged in the next. That step up on the journey and being, challenged by riders who definitely have come through the ranks of FAB-Racing, have been here for a couple of years. Not to say they're, veterans as such, because they are still very, very young. But Baton, Grayson, Paisley, all of whom familiar names with the championship, and Albie Stone mixing it up very, very nicely with them. And you can see the green and white machine of Logan Paisley falling into the clutches potentially of Albie Stone as they make their way onto what will be, 5 laps left to go of this 9-lap sprint in the LS2 Helmets AC40 Inters. Austin Baton, though, running away with things. Only 1 podium to his name thus far this season, and he's looking to come into Clay Pigeon as a solid favourite to claw back some of those points he lost back at Lid.
Yeah, it's a really great performance. Again, in the AC40s, someone has got ahead and gone for it, and you learn how to manage a race, you learn how to control the pressure in your own mind, the pressure of the championship now as we move on to AC40 Inters, which Albie Stone, as you can see there, will be thinking about that. But yeah, Austin Baton leading this race as he's actually going to come to the line now and start the next lap. 4 laps to go then for Austin Baton to take victory in the dominant fashion that he has shown so far. Daisy Grayson will actually be pleased with 2nd place, I think, if she manages to hold on to it, because she's beating the rivals that she fought so hard to beat and unfortunately didn't manage to amidst all the chaos at Lid.
Indeed so. Now you can see our race leader, the black and yellow bike, the very proud 100 on the front of it in those red, yellow and black leathers. That, of course, Austin Baton, who comes into this round, like we say, 4th place in the championship, a 3rd and 2 4th positions to his name back at Lid. A vastly different circuit is Clay Pigeon, significantly less technical, much more average speed, minimum corner speed very important, and of course there's heavy braking zones through turn number 1 and in towards turn number 2. Not on the brakes for very long until you then have to almost immediately, as you start sitting the bike up, get onto the brakes. 3 laps left to go though for our race leader. Currently sits about 28 points adrift from Jensen Brown in the championship. As it stands right now, we'll be gaining a significant chunk of that point deficit back with victory to Jensen Brown's 5th place. Austin Baton will get himself back into the conversation of championship contention.
Yeah, and if he can carry on this pace, and of course next time at Hooton Park we'll be able to see whether he's either a professional at Clay Pigeon, not that the rest of them aren't, but he's got that extra level above everyone else, or he's really has found that new confidence. Maybe, you know, a few different sessions out on different tracks across the country in the last 7 weeks between now and Lid, to gain that better feeling in this AC40 Inter class and hopefully challenge that top 3 for the championship battle, because I think this can be a really amazing class for the rest of the season with how close everyone is in terms of pace.
Yeah, agreed. The level of competitiveness is there, and you know, it does what it says on the tin, right? It's that intermediate class between the rookies and the pros, gives them that extra year because, again, in terms of learning racecraft, it's a very important still. Albie Stone down the inside of Logan Paisley will find the move there. Not really much that Paisley can do on that green and white 25 machine, being chased down as well by Jensen Brown with a lap to go at the line. Nice debut for Albie Stone. And again, the Inters giving them that extra year of opportunity to learn and refine their racecraft. Final lap of the race, though, for Austin Baton. And it's been near clinical for the 100 to be on track for what will be his first victory of 2026.
Yeah, I just want to mention there, that move from Albie Stone. This whole race, he's been inventing these incredibly inventive lines, so different from everyone else, and it's clearly working. He's now into 3rd, might just need to refine some of them as the camera panned to someone there. I thought we saw a crash, but that's all good. Austin Baton continues to lead this race with no issues, and here he comes now into the final sector. 100 marks out of 100 for Austin Baton on the number 100 machine. He comes into the penultimate corner, taking his first victory of the season as he makes it to the line now. A fantastic victory for Austin Baton as he now solidifies himself a championship contender.
Yeah, very fantastically done there for Austin Baton. Will claw back some very nice points in the championship. Will the 100. And in terms of the standings, I can get you some provisional numbers. He will close the deficit. The top 4 now separated by just 14 points. Baton, P4, Logan Paisley in 3rd. Grayson with Jensen Brown still the championship leader. This time, though, only by 9 points. 2 victories so far this season for Brown and Austin Baton, etching his name into that. The other race victor as well, Logan Paisley, race 1 of the season back at Lid. So we've had 4 races in the Inters. 3 different race victors as well. Jensen Brown leading the championship provisionally, but nothing can be taken away from Austin Baton so far this weekend. Pole by a significant margin, and well, race victory equally by a significant margin as well.
Yeah, a brilliant result for him. Austin Baton might actually want to, consider moving up to the AC40 Pros with that one. It is a little bit too early to say that, but if he continues this, he might just make the move that Albie Stone did, and I think he'll be just as good there. But Albie Stone, honestly, he's over the moon with that one. But a podium in his debut in the AC40 Inters. I was just saying about how inventive and different his lines were, and they're clearly paying off as he's already made himself aware that he can do this. He's amazing in the AC40 rookies class, but he's gone a step further in the Inters and shown them that he is there to win. So we now wait for the results of the AC40 rookies. Of course, supported by LS2 helmets, have just made their way to the podium now. Logan Paisley, he's going to be devastated to have missed out on the podium there to Albie Stone. A close battle between them in the final few laps, and ended in favour of Albie Stone, but a good result as well for Daisy Grayson in 2nd place. I said earlier about how she was desperate to regain a lead in the championship after you feel like having maybe a bit of stronger pace over Jensen Brown and Logan Paisley throughout at least the first 2 races at Lid, and then it unfortunately went all wrong, but for multiple reasons, and she's done that now. She's beaten them. Admittedly, maybe not on the top of the podium, but it's a big confidence booster going into the next round. And tomorrow.
Yeah, we spoke to her, of course, the first interview of the season, actually, with Daisy Grayson back at Lid, and just smiles all around, you know, confident, happy to be here, happy to learn, happy to progress, and, you know, the results, you know, are a byproduct of that fun, of you know, coming here, learning and getting a bit better. So, yeah, nice to see her having that fun, and again, the results to show it. That's going to wrap it up for the Inter supported by LS2 helmets. Next up, though, it's time for the Mini GP 50R category.
Yeah, we saw a lot of drama in this category, actually, last time out at Lid. We saw drama in every single category, but a bit more one than the other. Bo Morris will be further at the back of the grid, I think. Maybe a bit of a difficult qualifying, might not be competing. We don't get the entry list as of yet, but there you can see Tommy Williams, and there was a big crash actually in this class last time out at Lid between those two, and that rivalry may continue. I believe Bo Morris is here. I've seen his bike around, but there we go. Is Emilio Pereira, who is the most dominant rider at Lid. He's starting second, so we're already starting to see maybe his advantage crawling backwards.
Yeah, in terms of the grid, Mason Fedrick will be the one starting on pole position, just about a tenth and a bit between himself and Emilio Pereira on the front row. Mason Fedrick, of course, did compete in one race back at Lid before he quickly flew over to Spain on the Sunday to compete over in Europe. Josh Perkins, Cody Brennan on row 2. We'll run you through the full grid in just a moment, but Mason Fedrick taking the challenge to Emilio Pereira, who did take 2 victories at Lid. It was Jensen Knowles who denied him the sweep back in Kent. Just trying to look as to whether or not we have got Jensen Knowles and where he's going to be starting. I don't think he's joining us on the grid as they'll make their way around for their formation lap. Like I said, it'll be Mason Fedrick alongside Emilio Pereira, championship leader, on the front row of the grid from Josh Perkins and Cody Brennan in 4th. Tommy Williams from Preston Baker, the 93, will complete the 3rd row of the grid from Jensen Ansel and Joey Athasich on the 67. Bo Morris and Jensen Cedras complete the top 10 with a 44 of Nelly Nuth, taking that step up into the 50s alongside Riley Robinson on row 6. Danny Longhurst, ambassador for the House of Moto, will start 13th alongside Reed Saxby. JJ Manchester, Jasper O'Neill White from P16, Daniel Tanton, Oliver Wilson, company on row 9. Emerson Oakley, Claudia Dudman complete the top 20 with Oliver Cheeseman a very lonely 21st and final position of the field. Mason Fedrick, though, crawling his way to the line on that red and black number 5 alongside the 31 of Emilio Pereira. And, well, what a titanic battle those two could well share. Emilio Pereira, Mason Fedrick, 2 riders that will definitely leave it all out on the racetrack.
Yeah, and I think Emilio Pereira may have just met his match for this race. I mean, I'm calling a result before it's even started, but we're going to see Mason Fedrick with some high confidence here, because if you're racing in Europe and doing a good job at that, we spoke to his dad actually on Friday at Lid, and he was telling us about his adventures in Europe and about how well he was doing, and it's only going to get better from here because he's back and ready to prove that what he's learned has not gone to waste. Exactly that.
Gearing ourselves up for the start then of the Metrokit Mini GP 50R category, a mixture of Metrokits and Avalis out there on circuit. You can see the pair of them lined up in the front row of the grid. Pereira, Fedrick. Pereira on the right-hand side of your screen, the left-hand side of the circuit, the inside for turn number 1, but the outside for turn number 2. The advantage could well swing in favour of the pole sitter of Mason Fedrick. You can see very aggressively stanced in their grid box, all the way to their respective edges. Emilio Pereira, the championship leader, 2 victories, 3 podiums so far this season. Can Mason Fedrick dethrone him at the top? The lights come on here at Clay Pigeon for the first race of 3. Round number 2 here at Clay Pigeon for the 50R category, and a great launch there from 3rd position from Josh Perkins. What a good launch that was as well for Cody Brennan to soar his way up in a couple of places immediately at the jump. But Mason Fedrick doing the job through the opening couple of corners, will lead through the chicane and down towards the horseshoe. Emilio Pereira just able to hang on and thwart the storming offence there from the 790 of Cody Brennan straight off the line there on the 2nd row, through momentarily up to 2nd, but I think dropping back by the time they reach turn number 2.
That was an amazing start for Mason Fedrick. Actually, a really difficult start for Emilio Pereira. Maybe that confidence we're seeing now starting to crack as he's realised that Mason Fedrick is here and ready to beat him. It was a little bit of a dodgy start, wasn't terrible, but it really held him and the people behind him up as well. He's lucky that he didn't get ran into or someone go past him, because they're all trying to squeeze past, but there was no room to play for them, and he's managed to hold on to 2nd place. But already, like I said, away and gone is Mason Fedrick, but can he hold on to that lead? Because it only takes Emilio Pereira a few moments to get back into that headspace where he knows he's the man to beat.
It's not been the greatest first laps, though, for Emilio Pereira. His attention turning backwards over his shoulder. Jensen Ansel, who started this race, P7, by the way, already at 4 positions and into 3rd. A 3-bike train beginning to form behind Pereira as Mason Frederick, his initial great launch and straight into the headspace of getting into the rhythm, pounding in those quick lap times, has bridged him a very nice gap. Still 10 laps left to go, though, and plenty can happen between now and the checkered flag. But at least right now, Pereira not got the pace to go and match Mason Frederick, and a challenge now for El Toro to get after the number 5. And, well, definitely being challenged by Jensen Ansel there. You can see the 22 darting to the inside, nearly getting his nose chopped off there through the horseshoe.
Yeah, he thought about it, didn't quite make it, but he's got plenty of time left to go. We have 10 laps left. Josh Perkins is someone that you should watch out for, actually, because he's slowly creeping onto this podium battle between Pereira and Ansel, and he's just waiting for something to go wrong between these two. Maybe Ansel might send a dive here and might run them out wide. Actually, it looks like he's going to look for it. Again, just waiting and biding his time. And this, we were actually talking about the 50 class, well, the GP50 class, but this being the 50R class, it's those middle classes where you learn what's sensible and what isn't, and what's the good moves to make. And we're seeing that mentality here. Ansel biding his time. There's still 9 laps for him to get through onto this 2nd place.
Exactly that, but he has got a bit of pressure from Josh Perkins behind him. The number 30, who, again, directly behind Mason Frederick, did get a good launch. Not quite as good as Cody Brennan, who started alongside him on the 790. But, yeah, there's time here for Jensen Ansel. However, like I say, that pressure from Perkins could start mounting and maybe force the issue slightly. It seems that Pereira is finding his own once again, getting himself into that rhythm. Of course, last time out at Lids, from basically the front row, got the launch, had the fortunate opportunity to settle in at his own pace. That's not been the case this round. He's had to do it much, much quicker. And of course, Frederick has done a slightly better job of it and is now running away with things. Pereira, though, able to hang on to 2nd, now into sort of the swing of things. But still, Ansel is there, still in the slipstream, still with a lot of pace that Emilio Pereira needs to manage if he doesn't want to jump off the 2nd step on the podium. Bit of a twitch there from Ansel as they get onto the power, that long right-hander to end off the lap, especially on these bigger bikes, the more powerful bikes, easy to slip a wheel on traction.
Yeah, and I just want to point out the Ovales seem, as I said earlier, the stronger package to be on here at Clay Pigeon. They weren't all that competitive aside from Jensen Knowles. It looked to me like the Metro kits were without a doubt the choice to be on, with Emilio Pereira, Bo Morris, Tommy Williams and Preston Baker up there as well, battling for the podium. But now we're seeing more people like Ansel on the Ovale and Mason Frederick, of course, starting to bring the Ovale name back towards the front. And it might not just be Pereira struggling we're seeing here. It might be everyone on the Metro kits, because we see Tommy Williams down in 6th. We see Bo Morris down in 8th, and they were all battling for the podium last time out. Maybe it just looks like the Ovales have the measure, I think, as they have 6 laps to go. Mason Frederick proving that it's not just the Ovale giving him the advantage, it's his skill, because he's doing so well to hold on to this lead.
I think you're on something there. Maybe the O-vantage. Could we coin that? That's a bit of a reach, isn't it? 6 laps left to go. Mason Frederick leading the way. A bit of a battle forming a bit further back. Reed Saxelby, who started this race in 14th position, currently running in 14th position, fighting with the likes of Jasper O'Neill White, Danny Longhurst, JJ Manchester, all in that respective battle. Nelly Nuth also involved in that. Look out for her on the 44. A BBC News star was Nelly Nuth after her successful campaign in the rookies and her ascension to the top in Minibike racing. 5 laps left to go, though, as there you can see the number 30. That was Josh Perkins trying to chase after the back of Jensen Ansel and get onto the back of Emilio Pereira in the fight for 2nd position. Mason Frederick, of course, on the black and red number 5, leading the race. And, well, you have to say, doing a fantastic job of it. He's not looked back from the initial get-go. Didn't get the best start, of course, from the field, but had a good enough start that he was able to settle into his rhythm. And since then, like I say, just not looked back.
Yeah, I think he really got help there by that poor start that Pereira had, because it almost like a safety car stopped off the rest of the grid and gave him an even bigger boost for him to just calm down and spend the first 2 laps getting into his own rhythm. And now he's reached that point where you're in the rhythm and you're consistent, and it's impossible to catch someone when they're in a rhythm like that, because they're just so calm. They're not worried. They haven't got out of their seat yet. They haven't been set up by riders at the start of the race into turn 1. So he's chilling at the moment and proving to us that time in Europe has paid off.
Yeah, especially on hotter days like today as well. Dealing with being hot and sweaty in your leathers, and also as well how the tire reacts, right? How, you know, you're going to be scrubbing it a bit more, there's going to be a bit more heat going through it, the track's going to be a bit hotter, maybe a bit more slick out there as well. And that's that experience that typically we don't really get in the UK. Usually it's cold and miserable, and we're quite good when it rains, not necessarily when it gets really hot. So that sort of, if you've got the opportunity to go over to Europe and learn how to ride a bike in those hotter conditions, invaluable experience when you come back home and able to use that experience. There is the number 5 black and red machine. That was our pole sitter of Mason Fedrick. He currently finds his way onto what will be the penultimate lap of racing with 2 to go. And yeah, I think we're right in saying that again, that experience elsewhere for Mason Fedrick, even when he was on the Minimoto still and racing off in Italy and other championships on mini bikes, that experience has been, yeah, near invaluable for him, and he's arrived back home. Only did 1 race at Lid, and well, he's storming back to the front here at Clay Pigeon.
Yeah, we're actually now watching Mason Fedrick on the final 2 laps as he comes to the final sector with a lap and a bit to go. It is going to be a fantastic result for him if he manages to make this final lap work. Look at the gap he's got to Emilio Pereira. You can't even see Pereira on the screen, and again, that's not a scratch at any riders behind him. They're all trying their best out there, and how could you even say anything bad about Pereira after his performance at Lid? Give him a few, maybe he'll perform better tomorrow with the better experience and realism of understanding how Mason's pace is compared to his, rather than this unlimited confidence that he can always win. And that's what gets built here in the GP50 class. But sure of a win is Mason Fedrick, as long as he makes his way fine through the last 2 corners. Now there's some big battles going on behind him, but he doesn't even know. He had no one in front of him the whole race, and it's proved because it's a dominant win for Mason Fedrick here at Clay Pigeon. Back from Europe, back to the UK, and back to the top step for him in the Mini GP50R class.
Yeah, that was fantastic from Mason Fedrick. Beautiful display, and in fact, actually across the line, Jensen Ansel tipped Emilio Pereira to 2nd position, so the 22 found the way past. And, well, from 7th place on the grid, Jensen Ansel stormed through. The opening lap alone was up into 3rd and already pestering the championship leader. And by the end of the race, was up there and up in a 2nd position. What a ride that was from the 22 of Jensen Ansel.
Yeah, fantastic. Actually, we said earlier in the race that he had time to judge where Emilio Pereira was stronger, where he was weaker, and also the best place to make a move with the bike he's got. He's on the Ovale, and Emilio is on the Metra Kit. So a big difference in machinery there that he probably wouldn't have been considering. These kids don't really think about the mechanical differences of their motorbikes, rather just, I've got to beat the person ahead of me. And that is fine for them, because it is perfectly enlightening to have all that confidence where machinery doesn't come into play. But Mason Fedrick took a sensational victory ahead of Jensen Ansel and Emilio Pereira. The rest of the field contained Perkins in 4th, Brennan, Williams, Athasic, Morris, Cedras and Robinson. An action-packed race in the middle of the pack. I saw Tommy Williams getting in some proper heated fights on that last lap outside of the commentary box window, but ultimately Mason Fedrick, what a statement coming back from Europe, as we now wait for them to come to the podium. We just had the results there, confirming that Jensen Ansel did indeed make his way through into 2nd on the last lap. And perfect racecraft for him to judge the perfect time to make that move. And it was a perfect move, it must have been. I mean, it might have been somewhat questionable, but the fact that Emilio Pereira was still able to come home in 3rd shows that it was nothing too aggressive from Jensen Ansel. But the Ovales making a statement here at Clay Pigeon in the GP50R class. And now we head back to the adults for the senior mini moto class. Back to the mini motos, but away from the kids, the stars of the future. These guys are the stars of today in the FAB-Racing paddock. They're on the grid now, getting ready to rock. Matt Birkin on pole position. Who would have guessed? He was so fast at Lid. I had an issue actually. Chain came off in the first race, and Tom Burt, in his debut in FAB-Racing, showing incredible pace, and now leading the championship into this one. But we might see Matt Birkin taking another 3 today, like he did last year so many times. And of course, if you want to get involved, of course, adults watching this racing, get a mini moto, you could probably buy it off one of the kids that are racing and moving up to the GP50 classes, and get out there yourself. It's some very fun and wacky racing, but nonetheless, these guys take it seriously. Matt Birkin is a professional mini moto rider. Tom Burt, the championship leader, of course, as I formerly mentioned, had an incredible round at Lid, but with I think a third row start, might find it a bit difficult to get up the inside, because when you're a big, strong, in some cases adult, it's not as easy to find the space when you're as little as the other AC40 riders.
Yeah, that's true. You've got your knees poking out, you've got your elbows pointing out. It does look a little bit silly, but they just have as much fun as they possibly can. And of course, these guys will be up there at the Junior GP event at Silverstone to show what they can do on such a big stage. And of course, stay tuned. Still announcements coming out about that respective event. Massive announcements in terms of, well, what's going to be at the event in of itself, and myself and Riley are buzzing, the crew at Motorsport Media are buzzing to be there, and what an experience it could well be for the young riders and the old ones as well, in the forms of the senior mini motos. Matt Birkin on pole position alongside Harvey Jeremy on the front row. Tom Burt starts third, directly behind his championship rival and the veteran, the reigning champion that is Matt Birkin. Ice the lights for senior mini moto here at Clay Pigeon. Reigning champion Matt Birkin has it all to prove after technical problems back at Lid. Can he fire back at Clay Pigeon? I think a couple of problems just delaying the start there. One of the riders a bit further back in the field. I think maybe the 92 of Chris Bain potentially. Nonetheless, as soon as that's cleared, we'll get lights on. Lights off, we go racing. Good start from Matt Birkin. A slow reaction time though for the reigning champion. Sees Harvey Jeremy straight up and into the race lead. Already jumped as well, Matt Birkin. He's dropped a couple of places, down to third, potentially even down to fourth by the time they reach the chicane. Not the best of starts for the reigning champion. Harvey Jeremy though, the one to make the most of it and capitalise straight into the lead. And
capitalising again is Tom Burt, who's got through into lead, the championship leader, taking back the lead and showing us why he's on course to win the championship in his debut season. Of course, this is still round two and he's got plenty of rivals to deal with. Harvey Jeremy back up the inside, and I just want to say how impressive this is. I was taking a look at last year's results. Harvey Jeremy in combined points was down in 10th last year, and now he's leading the race.
Yeah, it is incredible. Maybe some issues or whatever. You know, you've got the stat. The story could be very, very different indeed, but in terms of pace in 2026, Harvey Jeremy not lacking any of it. Matt Birkin straight onto the rear end of the leaders as we tick our way on to lap number 2. There's the move though, straight back down the inside from Tom Burt, though able to manage the throttle, keep it tight off the exit of turn number 2 and find the space to the inside of 3. The 68 now leads. I think Matt Birkin has been able to follow him through. A problem potentially for one of the riders. I think Harvey Jeremy called into a halt.
Oh, that is a real shame. I feel awful for him, because we were just saying that it might have been an issue that plagued his weekend last year. And that's Tom Burt as well. So many people having problems. That is 2 of the top 3 riders having issues. Matt Birkin had terrible luck at Lid, and now the 2 in front of him in the lead of the race have just come out and he's on his own. Yeah.
Chain problem there, you could see for Tom Burt was straight on it to try and mend it and get himself back out there. Matt Birkin did it at Lid. He was still able to claw back and finish 8th and then winning the 2 races on Sunday. Bit of an issue as well for another one of the riders. Is that Nick Bennett potentially on the 711 having a bit of a problem, getting himself back going again down into the chicane. There we can see Matt Birkin with a very wonky number 1 on the front of his bike, chasing after another rider as well. Still plenty of this race still to manage. There is the 171 of George Renix, who started this race in 5th. Well, don't tell me he's been able to overtake Matt Birkin and get himself into the lead as well.
Yeah, we're just watching Andy Whedon there, the white and black Arai helmet. He was in the battle for the podium and even the win last time out at Lid, and he was really strong. Sorry, that's George Renix. He's doing a good job there in 5th, but I just wanted to mention, actually, Andy Whedon. He's there in 3rd, behind Renix. And he was battling for the podium with Tom Burt and Matt Birkin. As you can see, Tom Burt, I just mentioned, crawling into pit lane. That's really bad for his championship, because Matt Birkin is 2nd and only a few points behind. He will be leading the championship if it stays like this. But Andy Whedon made a move up the inside into that penultimate corner, hard on the brakes and went down, if you remember. And I think he recovered to maybe 5th or 6th. So it's a little bit easier to get back up on these bikes because they're quite light. And of course, these guys, they could probably pick it up with one hand. So if you crash, it's not the end of the world, but it can still definitely cost you a podium, as we now see the battle for the podium, the final spot on the podium between, the 2nd spot on the podium between Renix and Whedon getting underway with 5 laps to go. As Matt Birkin continues to pull away, the battle for 2nd continues to get more intense.
very similar leathers, Birkin and Whedon there. You can see, I think the exact same, maybe just one slightly more often washed. Whedon versus Renix, though, the battle for second position, the 70 versus the 171. 5 laps left to go in the first of 3 senior Minimoto races this weekend at Clay Pigeon. Matt Birkin looking to take what will be the 3rd victory in a row for the reigning champion in his pursuit of going for, well, another championship in FAB-Racing. 4 to go as they cross the line. The fight for second still raging on. Whedon versus Renix, who did work his way up in a second. Of course, Whedon doing this one from 4th. The 2 in front of him of Jeremy and Bert promoting him up in a second by virtue of their respective retirements. George Renix as well, coming from 5th, has had to overtake Andy Whedon. But quickly was overtaken back in this, well, pretty entertaining battle for second position. 4 still to go, though. It's Birkin from Whedon, from Renix player, and Nick Bennett, your top 5.
Yeah, and I was just seeing in our producer screen next to us on the other cameras, we're seeing so many more riders have those chain issues. And that's because these older riders, these bigger riders, they can put more force on these mini-motos in terms of the throttle input. And that's what happens when you're chopping throttle on an automatic bike, which these are, that can really mess up the rear wheel and the chain can just whip off. I've done that before on one of my friend's 50cc mini bikes, and yeah, it's not a great thing because that's your race completely over. There's no putting it back on in the middle of the track, and because they're able to give these more aggressive throttle inputs compared to the kids, and a track like Clay Pigeon where you want to be on the throttle for a good chunk of the track, it makes for very big issues. So I think everyone would have been spending hours making sure their chain was perfectly serviced going into this one, but not even that can save you from Clay Pigeon. Despite it being an amazing track, it does seem to be making an effect in the senior mini-moto category, and that's going to happen at Silverstone. I think is going to be a very, very big issue as they all continue to learn the circuit. But 2 laps to go, and Matt Birkin proving to us why he's the reigning British champion in the senior mini-moto category. Oh, a crash there for someone at the hairpin. As you can see, Matt Birkin coming through. It unfortunately looks like he's injured. Hopefully they're able to get the bike out of the way in time, because that is roundabout on the racing line. And he's able to get up and out the way nice and quickly. He's just getting his bike out the way, I think, as you can see there, picking it up with one hand. It's like a paperweight. It's so light. And I think that is Rob Gentry, unfortunately. He is having a difficult weekend, but he's got more opportunities tomorrow to rectify that, as so is everyone else having those issues. But Matt Birkin getting caught in some lap traffic, but I don't think it's going to be enough to push him back into Andy Whedon. So 1 lap to go to add to his win tally and make it 3 wins this, 3 wins this season,
Yeah, 3 wins in a row as well for Matt Birkin. Of course, P8 in race 1 at Lids by virtue of his chain falling off. Reliability problems plaguing Matt Birkin, but yeah, like we say, the chain falling off is probably the most common reliability issue for these mini-motos. He followed that up by 2 victories. He was in pole at Lid. He was on pole here at Clay Pigeon. He's run away with victory. Once again, the reigning champion proving why he is the best. The number 1 rounds the final corner, will take his 3rd victory of 2026 thus far. It's victory. Race number 1 of Clay Pigeon for the senior mini-motos. Matt Birkin back on the top step. And then, of course, the battle between the likes of Andy Whedon behind, I think, actually, as well, tipping in favour of the 70. George Renix nowhere to be seen on the 171, promoting the likes of Nick Bennett and Aaron Player, the 75, I believe, the one in the end, taking the final step on the podium.
Ironically, might have just done an Andy Whedon. We saw that in the last couple of laps. Andy Whedon diving up the inside of, I think it was Tom Burt, at Lid into the penultimate corner, hard on the brakes, and it went completely wrong. And I think that he's actually just done that now. His rival in that race, being Renix, might have just lost that podium from a mistake, trying to look out the window and see whereabouts he is. But we're now about to get the results when they come back to the podium. And Matt Birkin, once again, riding the crest of a wave. He is the master of senior mini-motos, the ultimate British mini-moto rider in this FAB Championship.
Indeed, so that's going to wrap it up for the senior mini-motos. Next up, of course, it's going to be a spectacle race, the top class of FAB-Racing British mini-bikes. It's time for the amphibian scaffolding Metrokit Mini GP 70s.
Hello and welcome to the Mini GP 70 Race 1 here at Clay Pigeon. The voice may sound a bit different. The two commentators have been sacked for a race, and I'm also joined here by fellow Moto4 British rider Harrison Day. Harrison, how's it going?
Yeah, you know, it's going really well. I'm really excited to be commentating this race, and I think the 70s has been really close so far this year, and I think Frankie Watson is going to put up a big challenge against Sebastian Geslowski and Brad Curtis.
Yeah, you know, I've been watching all weekend, and it's been real close with the times, but I was looking at Bradley, and like his dominating form at Lid just wasn't quite showing here. But let's see if he can pull it back in the race, and yeah.
Yeah, you know, so Frankie Watson definitely wasn't showing what he could do at Lid. I think he had some bike problems actually, but yeah, Sebastian Geslowski was just struggling a little bit to find his way past Brad Curtis, and yeah, for this race I reckon Sebastian Geslowski's really quick round here, and I reckon he's going to try go with Frankie Watson, and then I think Brad will just tag on behind.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good race. The top three have been real close over the weekend. I think it's going to be a breakaway group, but it just depends who's in that breakaway group. So, yeah, you know, it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, as they are getting ready to come out for the warm-up lap. What's the grid looking like, Harrison?
So, on pole position, we have Frankie Watson with 37.7, Sebastian Geslowski in P2, Brad Curtis in P3, Caelan Ratcliffe in P4, followed by Tommy Keats and Kai Hawkin on row 3, with Max Johnson, Daisy Polden on row 4, and Nicholas Dunwoody in P9, and Rex Austin in P10, and rounding out the grid, Maxwell Keats and Bojan Blazewski.
Yeah, it seems like there's a bit of a delay here from the last race. I'm not sure whether there's something on the track or... I'm not sure. This does give us a chance to talk about Silverstone though. FAB-Racing going to Silverstone. We will also be racing at Silverstone with the Moto4 British Cup. But yeah, it's a big achievement for Fab really. I've raced here since I was 6 years old, so about 6 years I've been in this paddock, and it's really nice to see that they're progressing and getting onto the world stage.
Yeah, and you know, if you're at Silverstone MotoGP, just make sure the track's like inside of Silverstone, so make sure you go pop in and have a look at all the riders.
Yeah, as they get ready to go on the warm-up lap, I just want to mention the top two are actually my teammates. So Sebastian Geslowski and Frankie Watson are part of Stanford Racing, which is the team I'm in at Moto4 British Cup. And Stanford is basically like Danny Webb's GP camp. I think it's just been renamed a little bit. But yeah, out of everyone, I'm sort of rooting for those two a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen a lot of riders step up into this class last year. So we've seen Sebastian Geslowski, Caelan Ratcliffe, Tommy Keats, and many more step up from the 50s. So I'll read the grid again. Starting on P1 is Frankie Watson, Sebastian Geslowski, Brad Curtis, Caelan Ratcliffe, Tommy Keats, Kai Hawkin, Max Johnson, Daisy Polden, Nicholas Dunwoody, Rex Austin, and rounding out the grid is Maxwell Keats and Bojan Blazewski.
Yeah, this is going to be a really close race, Harrison. The times were real close in qualifying. Let's just see what the riders can do on this first lap. It's going to be a bit hectic with the layout of this track, but it's just going to be who gets a good start into turn one.
Yeah, we've definitely seen this track is quite hard to overtake, and they're starting to warm up a little bit, so I don't know whether or not the track conditions will be getting a bit greasy.
Yeah, you just see Brad Curtis being moved into the right position there. Having a few final words of advice from his dad, it looks like. But now, the red flag up, and Seb's just testing his brakes as the red lights are going on. Red lights on, and away we go for race one of the Mini GP 70s. It's Sebastian Geslowski who leads the way into turn one, followed by Frankie Watson and Bradley Curtis. Like, yeah,
think this is going to be an excellent race. Let's just see if Sebastian Kozlowski can now get away with Frankie Watson and Bradley Kurz maybe being in a little bit of battle. But now we can see Caelan Ratcliffe just pulling away a little bit from Max Johnson and maybe trying to tag along to the back of these three.
Yeah, it looks like Sebastian got a really good start there. He just held his line into turn 1 as we see Tommy Keats doing a move down the inside. I think that is Max Johnson. So good move there from Tommy Keats. As we go back to the leaders, that is Seb leading the way after lap 1, followed by Frankie Watson. And you just feel as though the top 3 are sort of pulling away from everybody else. It feels like Caelan's just dropped off a little bit there. He'll have to work real hard to get back to these front 3.
Yeah, like I said, Sebastian Kozlowski looks really comfortable just to hold this lead. And I know Frankie Watson definitely has the pace from the times we've seen in qualifying. So let's just see whether or not Frankie Watson can make sure he doesn't let Sebastian Kozlowski out of his sights and try put a move on. And you never know, when they're putting a move on, they're going to be battling, and Brad Curtis might try pick up the pieces.
Yeah, it's real close already. The first 3 laps, the first front 3 have pulled away. Looks like Caelan is just working that bit harder just to try and close the gap to the front 3. Looks like he's gapped Tommy Keats a little bit, but it's just the front 3 pulling away, like I said.
Yeah, Tommy Keats has got in front of, I think he's got in front of Max Johnson now, and he's just picking the pace up a little bit, trying to tag along on the back of Caelan Ratcliffe. So now we've seen Caelan Ratcliffe is a smaller rider, so almost like me in the Motor4 British Cup, that is kind of harder to manoeuvre the bike. So maybe Caelan Ratcliffe might just be struggling with this a little bit.
So this is Max Johnson leading, looks like the second pack, chasing down Tommy and Caelan Ratcliffe, followed by Kai Hawkin, looks like Daisy Polden and
Nicholas Dunwoody in the back.
That's it, yeah. So that's the second pack there. But Harrison, you've obviously raced in this class last year. Could you give some tips, or... Yeah, you are the current champion now, yeah. So you got any tips for the riders?
Yeah, well, I've got the lap record round here on a 37.5, and I don't know how far off they are, but Frankie, Seb and Brad are all looking strong this weekend, and the conditions are lovely. They're lovely, nice and warm. So let's just see whether or not this can just keep the pace up and maybe hold it for the last 8 laps, because I know some of these riders are not as consistent as others. So maybe, let's say, Sebastian Kozlowski is strong at the start but might fade towards the end.
Yeah, there's a big 5-way battle going on here. Max Johnson leading the way. Oh, it's getting real close here, the second pack. You feel as though with their battling they might be dropping off the back with Tommy here, but yeah, it looks like a real close battle here.
Yeah, we can see Max Johnson already going defensive towards Kai Hawkin, who's returned to FAB-Racing this weekend and is looking really strong. But we can see Nicholas Dunwoody's making some move now, and Rex Austin's even joining the back of the pack.
Yeah, Nicholas Dunwoody's made a good few moves. As Kai nearly makes a move into the hairpin there. But yeah, as I was saying, Nicholas Dunwoody's been making up positions from the start, and he's in a real good position now.
Yeah, we can see him trying to go around the outside of Max Johnson. No, not quite. Didn't manage to work out. It's quite hard through there because, as I said, this track's quite tight, so you have to set up the overtake a few corners before.
Yeah, you know, what do you think is the best overtaking point round here? Obviously, I did race a 70 round here, but that was a long time ago. So, what do you think is the best overtaking
Well, I think
spot?
a good overtaking opportunity is into here. So if you get a good run out of the chicane and just manage to just pull alongside down the straight and then let off the brakes and maybe try get down the inside. But I also think the first corner, round the first corner and then into the second will be really good.
Yeah, it looks like this is turning into a 6-wheel battle now. I think that is Max Keats joining the party. So this is going to be a 12-wheel battle, rather. But this is a real close battle through here as Nicholas Dunwoody has a look into turn 2. Not quite. He's been looking real good, through on these first few laps. But just looks like this group is getting more bunched up with the battling that's going on at the front.
Yeah, and you never know. We could even have Bojan Blazewski join this battle if they keep going on like this, because the pace doesn't look very quick. You know, Max Johnson at the front and Kai Hawkin is right on the rear of his bike, and then you've got Nicholas Dunwoody, Daisy Polden, Rex Austin, and then Max Keats. So I think this will be a really good battle to the end, and I just think if Kai finds a way through, then I think he might be gone.
Yeah, Kai looks like he's trying everything he can on Max Johnson here. We haven't seen much at the front, but I do assume it's close, as it is the Mini GP70s, but Kai is... Oh, he's trying everything to get past Max Johnson, and you feel as though it's just bunching up the rest of the pack.
Yeah, definitely bunching up the rest of the pack. So you can kind of see Nicholas Dunwoody is just staying back a little bit, and he looks like he's just trying to set up a move now, because you never know, Kai Hawkin could go down the inside of Max Johnson, push them both wide, and Nicholas Dunwoody's there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, this is a real good battle going on. This is what Mini GP70's all about, and Rex Austin dives down the inside of Daisy Polden into turn 2. What a move from Rex Austin there as he tries to climb positions.
Yeah, Max Johnson once again going defensive on the brakes, swerving over onto the side of the track, but Kai Hawkin is still looking strong and still looking like maybe he can make a move on the last lap.
Yeah, I've been noticing there, Max Johnson out of that double left-hander, it seems as though he's missing a gear, or it might be as he's clicking a gear coming out, but it always seems there's an exaggerated hand position there from Max. That could cost him on the last lap, you feel?
Yeah, definitely, because you know, out of the double left and then into the right, you know, you could get a good run into the final corner and then make a block pass, and you never know after that that could result in the standings.
Yeah, as we do go back to this battle here, looks like Max Keats is just trying to tag on to this second group. As we now go back to the leaders on the final lap of the race, Sebastian Gosłowski is leading the way, followed by Frankie Watson. Sebastian Gosłowski goes defensive on the brakes. Frankie Watson tries to go the long way round. This is going to be real tight to the finish.
Yeah, and as we can see, Frankie Watson trying to make a move left or right. He doesn't really care. But Sebastian Gosłowski really defensive now. Into the final corner they go. Will Sebastian Gosłowski hold the lead, or will Frankie Watson take him down the straight? Sebastian Gosłowski. Oh, will he take it?
Close.
Yes.
Oh, Sebastian Gosłowski takes race 1 of the Mini GP70s. That was so close at the front. Frankie just tried on that first corner there, but yeah, that was the closest race I've ever seen.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we've got some close finishes here at Clay Pigeon, with obviously the leader staying to the right-hand side and second place cutting to the left, almost making the track shorter.
Yeah, this is it's quite a weird track. You know, if you're leading going into the last corner, you would say you go tight and just keep the throttle on, which does affect your drive into turn 2, but it's the last lap, so it doesn't really matter.
So here we will have the results. It was a really good race for everyone, to be fair. We see some good battles going along, and yeah, looks like they're both happy, and Sebastian Gosłowski is definitely going to be happy with his first win. So here we have Sebastian Gosłowski in first place, just beating Frankie Watson by 0.076. Frankie Watson P2, Brad Curtis followed by, in the end of the podium, Caelan Ratcliffe, Tommy Keats, Max Johnson, Kai Hawkin, Nicholas Dunwoody, Rex Austin and Daisy Polden rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, that was a real good race from the Mini GP70 as always. We will see you next race. But yeah, that was a real good race, Harrison. What did you think of that?
Yeah, definitely. I think this season's going to be promising. You know, and I don't think we're going to have the season we had last year with me leading the way by maybe lots of points, should I say?
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a really close season so far, because you know you've got Brad Curtis, who won all 3 races at the last round, and then Sebastian Gosłowski, who was second.
Yeah, and that is Mini GP70 Race 1. Henry McCartney and Harrison Day bringing that to you, but now we will switch back to the real commentators for the Pit Bike Race 1. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
A very nice surprise indeed for the Mexican Mini GP 70 race. Henry McCartney and Harrison Day taken over in the commentary box. That's myself, Zach Sweeney, and Riley Davis back to bring you the action. Back to the real commentators is what he said verbatim. I would count those two very much as real commentators. They did a smashing job, didn't they?
Yeah, fantastic job from Henry and Harrison. Both of them, of course, former legends, really, of the FAB-Racing paddock. And, of course, FAB-Racing proving to you there that they bring you talent on the track from grassroots to Grand Prix, all the way from the bottom to the top. And not just on track, but in the commentary box as well. I'd consider ourselves part of that talent as well. And yeah, they did a really good job. I'm really proud of them. And for a first adventure into commentating,
Smashed it.
It just shows you that knowledge can really do half of the job, and they went more than that. The excitement was amazing. And quite honestly, I'm really jealous that the best race of the weekend so far, we didn't get to commentate on. But hopefully the guys at Pitbike 140 is going to make that a bit of a different story.
You're jealous. I'm a bit nervous about my job. I'll be honest. They did that good of a job. Their knowledge was superb. Nonetheless, we've got more racing to talk about. Ollie Horner starts this one on pole position alongside Taylor Lawrence. Now get this, 13 thousandths of a second separate the front row in qualifying. Simon Gates, Jamie King feeling a bit under the weather. As Pit by Sonic starts this one from row 2. Ben Simpson, Harrison Quincy coming into this with a lot to prove off the back of Lid starts 6th. Aaron Robertson